Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is the show where you guys get to call in and talk to two trans people about all of your questions, anything and everything trans-related. I do think we might put like a limit on some of the advice calls today. I would like to try to maybe fish some more. You don't necessarily have to be combative, but like more like questioning or bringing something to us. Like we'd love to get into more education and that kind of stuff here. So but we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to put a hard limit on anything. I was just like, I want to goad people into having some more productive conversations. I am steering the ship. I am Arden Hart. You guys know me. And with me is, of course, Josie Caballero. Josie, how you doing?
Doing good. It's been hectic as always, as the economy is ricksawing and crashing, and all the things that you've all seen. But yeah, things have been actually going pretty good with the work that I've been doing. I know a lot of you already know, but I work on pipeline building for candidates that are trans across the country. And I now have, and this is crazy, 72 trans candidates interested in running across the country in the next now 2 years from now. So it's wild. Like in this pool of people, probably in maybe even 10 to 20 years, we'll see them in Congress, US Senate, state executive seats, governors. Like we are building the bench. It's wild. I'm so happy.
No, I think that's great. Genuinely, that's one of those things that gives me a lot of hope. Like I've been saying to the chat a lot since the election, like I'm having a lot of oscillations between like, I'm hopeful, I'm ready to fight, I'm fired up, let's do this thing. Like, I think we totally, like, we've got this actually to, oh my God, do I need to move out of the country? Those are like my only two emotional states. And that's one of those things that brings me back into the, we got this, let's fight kind of mentality. Cause that is really exciting. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, I feel like we've been really seeing some of the most prominent fractures in the MAGA coalition. As soon as Trump raked all of their finances over the coals, that was actually a deal breaker for some of them. I mean, and not like a total deal breaker, but to see even Elon Musk saying like, I want to see a no tariff solution and like more free movement between North American countries and in Europe and things like this. Like, I hope that has some sort of impact. But I'm not hopeful that it will. I'm not going to hold my breath, like I'm realistic, but yeah, I think it's a reminder that we haven't completely lost yet, as much as it feels that way sometimes.
That's right. And it's really interesting because, as history tells us, that it was these type of policies, these isolationist mercantile policies, that essentially led to the Great Depression. And what do we know from that? Well, it locked the Republicans out of power for 50 years. It really is a real thing, right? That this is the reality. And it's like, I always say, the economy is not real. It's not like the weather, right? But it does have conditions that are like the weather in a lot of ways. And the reality is math. And when a ship comes into port and has to have like a massive amount of tariffs levied on it, right now there has already been reports of people who are having ships coming in with products. These companies are like, I can't afford to pay 145% more on these goods, dump them in the ocean. And literally ships are dumping products into the ocean and just saying, oh, hey, shipyard, you now own this product.
No, stop.
Because they don't want to pay the duties and tariffs on these products that they've already purchased that are literally in the ocean on their way here. It's chaos, and that's why the stock market's going back down, because reality is real. And that's why I think there's like some insider trading going on where Trump's like, hey, I'm going to pause the tariffs, make sure you buy low.
Right.
And then that spikes it up, and then it comes back down, because reality is like 10% tariffs across the board, still very inflationary. We have
Yeah.
already broken trading like systems already, so like things can't recover really quickly. So yeah, it's if you've seen me on other shows, especially during the election period, I've had these conversations about economic measures and how like this goes here, this slides here, this goes. It's incredibly complicated, but when you just throw an axe or let's say a chainsaw into the system, guess what that does? It causes chaos, rips things up to ill repair. That's why a chainsaw is a terrible tool. A chainsaw is only used to chop a tree down and do very large cuts. It's not a scalpel. It's not a saw blade. It's a chainsaw. It literally is one of the worst tools you can use for anything else other than to chop and destroy things. So
Right.
it's just like, that's the metaphor that they want, sure, I guess. But now look at what's happening to nations that use the chainsaw approach to economies and systems that have been in place for years, decades.
Yeah. It's funny because, like you were saying in the shows on the run up to the election, how many times did we tell people that this would be like, by and large, the impact of tariffs like this? And like, it's amazing. The MAGA like cult mindset has allowed them to act like that wasn't real. The other countries were going to pay. And now that we're here and they're admitting the reality of the situation and their 401ks are going down, and grandma's not going to be able to pay her rent or buy groceries because she just lost all of her life savings or whatever. Like, now they're trying to explain, like, well, we just got to hold on and be tough. Like, so what? Your grandma dies. Like, tough up, I heard one of the fucking, what's his name? Is it Benny Johnson or something like that? Saying it costs you nothing to lose money.
Nothing to lose money?
I'm like, how did those words actually come out of your mouth? Like, come on.
I remember when the egg was like, oh my God, eggs went up by $1. The whole world's going to burn down. And now it's like, the economy lost a couple trillion 24 seconds. It's not a big deal. Why is everybody freaking out about this? It's just like, like they're all like Zen-like Buddhists now. It's like materials are not important. It's just like...
It's whatever is commanded by them of their dear leader is really what it seems to be. But yeah, so you guys, this is a call-in show. Obviously, we like to chat, but the number is 720-619-2288. That's 720-619-2288. The number's at the bottom of the screen in the description. There's also a web link if you are out of the US. We're going to get to calls in a minute here, but we're going to first look at our last week's polls. So last week's poll read, should Democrats try to appear less woke to win elections? 79% said no, 21% said yes. And I didn't really scroll too deeply through the comments here. I mean, I don't think I actually really need to get an idea of what the yes position is on this. We've heard it from countless pundits over the last few months of this notion of like, yes, it might feel inhumane, but it might be what's necessary to win the election so that we can protect trans rights in the long term is kind of the mindset. But I mean, we've already seen Democratic politicians doing that. And the White House just hosted D-Trans Awareness Day. Like, it's not affecting the administration. The administration doesn't care. They're going to go on dehumanizing trans people to the extent that it benefits their Christian nationalist agenda, no matter what we do. So, yeah, to me, this seems like a silly, obvious no. Like, it is ceding all of the ground of the entire argument to the Republicans from the jump and then trying to defend our positions and our policies. And that just seems so silly. Why are we always playing on their turf? Whenever they come up with whatever silly term or buzzword, we're always playing on their turf. And I think that is often gets us caught up in bad battles. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
I think about it in the other context. Should Republicans try to appear less hateful to win elections? Should Republicans try to appear less hypocritical to win elections? Should Republicans appear to be more truthful to win elections? They
Yeah.
don't give a crap about the way we label them. Why should we? And it's one of our biggest weaknesses as the Democrats, that it's like, oh no, they see us as a thing. It's like, who cares? Like we they can do whatever the hell they want at all times, and they never change their strategy, right? And when they have tried to change their strategy, Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, all of these other people that tried to run against Donald Trump, even Nikki Haley, all of these people tried to do what this essentially is less woke in the Republican direction.
Hmm.
It backfired and failed miserably. So
Right.
what people want are people who stand on positions, who stand on values. And what Republicans have done is they've weaponized the word woke to be values, right? So if you were to replace the Senate, should Democrats try to appear less value based to win elections? The answer is obviously no, right? Like, obviously, but because the word woke is there, it's like, oh, we can't do that, which all woke means is to be standing on principles, to stand on values. And they've weaponized our own values against us, which is equality, and making sure that people have economic and equity across the board to be able to succeed in this country, no matter what they are, as how they were born, or what they believe, or how they look. But that's all woke.
Hmm.
So that is how I kind of view it. And if you look at it in that terms, I think we are able to win an argument a little better, because the Republicans aren't doing it. Why should we?
Yeah. I think what you said about like how the people want politicians who stand on principle. Uh, I've been really gassing up AOC lately, but there was a polling something. I can't remember exactly who conducted the poll, but they did a flash poll that basically said, if we were to run the New York senatorial race today and you had AOC or Schumer on a ticket, which way would you lean? And 55% said AOC to 36 on Schumer. That is a
Mhm.
nearly 20-point difference on an incumbent long-term leader of the Democratic Party. So whenever we have this conversation about how it's politicians who support trans rights who are losing us these elections, it's patently untrue. AOC has been at these oligarchy rallies repeating over and over again, we can't do this without the trans people. We can't do this without the queer people. We need a coalition of all of us together to win this. And I think the data speak pretty clearly. It has nothing to do with trans people or the lack thereof. The thing that bothered the American people and their flawed perception, as far as I can tell, about Kamala Harris was that they thought she valued those things over the economy. Now, those people clearly were not watching fucking anything to do with the entire campaign process, because all she talked about was things about the economy and never mentioned trans people. But regardless, for some reason with AOC, they see that her values are with the working class. And that includes trans people, and it doesn't bother them. And so I do think that is really interesting. And it makes me almost wish that she would run for president, but also, if this race is more secure, that is she could have a really strong leadership position in the Senate. I think that would be really cool to see. But yeah, I think I'm really excited to see what her future goes and other politicians like her. Like, I love Jasmine Crockett. I love the spice that she brings. It's very Texas. And I think I hope we see more leaders like that coming out in the future.
Yeah, and the AOC for president thing, patience is a superpower in politics. To be able to wait for the right moment to be able to strike in a political manner means everything. It goes back to the Hamilton song. I'm not gonna, blow my shot. I'm not gonna miss my shot, because of the reality is, when you miss that shot, what is the likelihood that you're going to be able to make it again? Look, Hillary didn't get that second shot. We see that Harris is going to have trouble if she ever wants to take another shot. Why take a shot just for the sake of an ideological argument instead of actually taking a shot to actually win? And I think that AOC is playing it masterfully. She'll get a Senate seat. She'll beat the leader of the Senate. That would be huge. And you'll see what will happen. Schumer doesn't want to be embarrassed and he'll resign. And he'll be like, I'm not running for re-election. It's time for me to retire. And blah, 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 blah. Because they know that they losing would ruin their legacy. I know when I ran for Congress in 2020, the reality is the incumbent that was there for 20 years decided to not run for re-election because she knew that I was coming at her from the left and she was going to lose. So she drops out so other people had the opportunity to jump in with millions of dollars. That's the reality of the situation. And so I think that the writing is on the wall, and I think that this is a perfect opportunity for AOC to get leadership, because when you're in a room full of 100 people versus a room of over 425, you have a better opportunity to get into a leadership system. That's the advantage of being in the upper chamber. And so at that point, that's when AOC is going to be able to prove herself as a true leader to get into leadership. Bernie Sanders wasn't in leadership until he got into the Senate. Right. And so that's the reality of how this stuff works. And the Democrats need to abandon the seniority game, abandon the wait your turn game, and actually start putting real people in power.
Yeah, we are so past the seniority era. We need to be at the era of the people who are effective in the landscape that we have, which, for better or worse, is the media landscape, right? I mean, AOC, I hear people using the word telegenic. I had not heard that until the last 6 months, and I hate it. It's a weird word. But she's an expert. She's so on point with knowing how to answer questions in a way that feels respectful to the listener and to the questioner. I just think her growth as a politician has been very impressive, and I think she's on a exponential upward swing right now, and I love to see where she goes. With that, we do have our next week's poll. We're going to read to you guys and put that live in the chat, so that's going right now, and then we are going to move on to take some calls before we talk about it. So this week's question is the stock market crash because of trans athletes? Oh no. I can't wait to hear what you guys' thoughts are about that. Very serious poll. All right.
Very serious poll.
Josie, are you ready? How are you feeling?
I am feeling good. Let's go. Let's start taking some calls.
All right. It doesn't look like we have anyone super spicy right now, so I think we'll just take them in order. Let's talk to, first up then, Giddy, pronouns he, him in Utah, wants to know how to tell if trans. Good question. So, yeah. Giddy, you're live on the line with Arden and Josie. What's going on?
Hi. So, yes. Gosh, how do I say this with words? So, after years of questioning, I've recently found that I could be very much autistic. I'm getting somewhere with this. And so looking back, I can see oh, this thing was autistic, or this was that type of autistic trait. And taking that framework to other experiences, I've realized that I have a lot of life experiences that are potentially transcoded, and a lot, seriously, a ton. So I'm wondering, how much am I trans or just good at it? How much of this is the social pressure or this acceptance to be feminine? I'm wrestling through this, so I can. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but do you get my meaning or no?
Yeah. Yes. I think we get where you're coming from. I mean, when it comes to memories like that, I think this is a really interesting conversation that I've seen go back and forth in the trans community over the years, where, a lot of us will talk about a lot of those memories where, my nails were painted or my cousin painted my nails and I showed them off in front of my class and got reprimanded at school or whatever. And that was a formative memory for me. But I can totally conceive of a little boy who painted his nails and thought that it was okay and learned it wasn't, but isn't trans at all, right? There's nothing about my nails being painted that I think made me trans. I think it's kind of gender and our experience of gender and our understanding of our cultural sort of schema of gender is so subjective it's a lot like reading a book, like everyone that reads the book is going to walk away with like a slightly different personal interpretation of what they read. And I think gender is a lot like that. So it's kind of hard to look back at memories and like objectively classify them as like trans or not. But I think when you start to realize, oh, I think I feel like I might be a gender other than the one I was assigned at birth, for whatever other reason, I think then you can kind of start putting those pieces together and realize like, oh, based on how I was kind of thinking about things at the time, that makes sense. Yeah, I always caution about people being like, if you played with a doll when you were a kid, it doesn't mean you're trans, right? Not per se. But I do think a lot of trans women played with dolls a lot more than our cisgender male peers. And so there's something worth noting there. Yeah, Josie, do you have thoughts on that?
Yes. I remember, especially since I am a little bit of a late transitioner. I asked, there's a couple things you can ask yourself. One is, does a cis person think about their gender that often? And if you're like thinking about gender often, a lot, like, oh, the gender, the thing, am I or am I not? Cis people don't have that conversation with themselves very often. It's very rare. Outside of like, oh, I wonder what it would be like, and that's about it. That's the end. And then you also have to, and I hate to do this to you because it's like the thing that I had to ask myself is like, is asking that question often is that already a sign? It's like, the joke or not the joke or the meme of once you Google, am I gay? Once you Google, am I trans in the bar? That's probably your answer type of situation. And also another thing that may be also helpful as well is it's okay to start with, am I cis? Right, because sometimes going from that direction is also a way to think about it. It's hard. It's because saying I am trans may be more definitive, but saying am I cis is a step in that direction of like, if the answer is no, then you're probably some flavor of not cis, which people would say some flavor of trans. So it's one of those things that once you're able to feel comfortable with those questions of maybe. I remember when I came out at 34 years old, but the first time I admitted to myself that I wasn't a man was 30. But that wasn't enough for me to be like, oh, still cis though. And it was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely not a man, but whatever. Like, I'll just continue to live my life as a cis person. And then later on, it finally cracked and it was done, and I had to come out as the person I am today. So yeah, there's a lot of there. I'm also on the spectrum. I'm also autistic, so I can completely understand the like over analyzing, overthinking it type of situation where you're just like, yeah, but like, and it's like, but the fact that you're noodling on it and the fact that you're keep spinning on it is probably a indicator that something is not cis. If that helps. Sorry if it doesn't.
No, wow. Okay, so first off, I'm 34 right now. That's yeah, okay, cool. So any minute now then, huh?
Yeah.
No. So the thing is, I don't linger on these questions. I don't think about it often. I think about it just because I like the human experience. But since being exposed to TACIS, I do get to like ask questions because I like to do that. And when it comes to me, like before TACIS, these questions never came up. But now that I think about it, I think like if I were given she, her pronouns, and I've given them to myself just as an experiment, I feel, for a lack of better word, giddy about it. But,
okay.
Like I'm wrestling. Hold on. don't armchair transgender me quite yet. But but no, I'm wrestling between because like being a woman isn't an insult, and I can feel the same way in regards to being cis. But being cis is just boring to me and normal to me at this point. I don't know. It feels like I'm just trying to decipher what is like this social pressure to be okay with being a woman and accept women as a compliment, and what is actually like innate, because it wasn't until TACIS that like these questions showed up, and I'm still internally I still feel cis, but
Sure.
yeah, internally I still feel cis, but
Sure.
so I'm just trying to dance to wrestle with like I'm trying to stay away from this like social contagion aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I
Sure.
do wonder of like how much of this is just exposure to being trans,
So
to that experience
I
and
think,
the acceptance of it.
sure. I want to say that I'm a little dubious about the entire notion of the social contagion in general. And I realize that, like,
Yeah.
what you're saying is like, oh, well, I hadn't thought of this until I started watching TACIS, right? I do think it's worth mentioning that, like, I didn't really think about transitioning until I watched Trans America starring Felicity Huffman when I was like 9 years old. And then I was like, what? That's a thing? And then my mind rolled with that. And so, like where you come across the information that connects with you and resonates with you the most is not necessarily like you getting like indoctrinated or anything like that, if that's the concern. But I also think part of what I'm hearing from you, and this is an advice we've given to some callers before, but it seems like there's sort of this anxiety with like, if you start to play with your gender or kind of, switch up labels to see what feels good, it sounds like you're a little bit worried about maybe being too hasty or something. And I want to really like reassure you that I think the label and the destination are like the least important part of the transition experience and the trans experience. I think what is so much more going to be helpful and productive to you is to start thinking about like, okay, now that you've allowed yourself eventually into the space of like, okay, transitioning is okay, and I can start to consider if that is like something I'm interested in. Start thinking about what things you would do if you were to change your expression in a way that you think would make you feel more giddy or more excited. Like if you want to try she, her pronouns, or if you want to wear a dress sometimes, because even if you decide, well, I'm definitely actually not a woman, I'm still a man, but maybe you find out you like wearing dresses and like that's cool. Like now you are like one of the people who are cis men who likes wearing dresses, and that is a totally valid thing to do. I think removing the feeling of like making these changes or trying things on is going to necessarily put me on a path towards a certain destination, because it doesn't have to. It can just be your way of experimenting with what feels good for you and what makes you feel like the most authentic version of yourself. Or, I mean, sometimes the most authentic version of yourself can even kind of become a trap. Like that is a bit of a destination. So maybe I should walk that back. But just feeling like, oh, I feel really good when I look this way or when I express myself this way. Like that makes me feel happier or like a little bit more secure. And like when my friends validate that, I'm like, oh, this is definitely how I want to be expressing myself. Because I like for me, when I first came out to my friends, I know I was really terrified about like losing my friends. But when I came out to my friends in college, the second time I came out, they were all so accepting. It genuinely was like the last piece that I needed to fit into oh, this is my path. This is where I want to go. Because I was like, once they accepted me and loved me for that part of myself, I was like, oh no, this is right. This is completely right. I don't know how to explain it other than it was just like the stars aligned for me emotionally in that moment. I could tell that this is where this is the form of expression that made me feel the most like myself. And yeah, it really does become a trap when we start thinking about like the implications of using she, her pronouns. Like, does that mean I'm a woman or non-binary now? It's a trap to start falling down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I just want to also add to like if you have the ability, go and see a therapist about it. And, that's what a therapist is there for, to help you explore and help you discover, what's going on. Like, what are these feelings for? Like, going through and navigating that with a professional can be very helpful. I did that.
Mhm.
And, when I was talking to my therapist, never once did she ever say, have you ever thought that you might be trans? No, I just went in and started having the conversation, and after like the third or fourth section, I was like, oh, by the way, like, I am definitely trans. And she's like, oh, okay, well, what does that mean to you? Right. And then
Mhm.
she started asking questions about, like, what does that mean? Does that, what does that look like? And then she was able to help me explore what that meant for me as a person, as a human. And that's also an avenue I highly recommend. And I think most people would recommend that you actually do that, because there is a lot, like exactly what Arden said. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, in our country. There is a track. And it's very binary. It's like, oh, you're a woman. Well, then we're gonna put you through all of the woman side of things. Oh, you're a man. Oh, we're gonna put you. It's like, literally, when you're born, they put those letters on your birth certificate and literally put you into a systematic system of, this is what it means to be that letter. And so just know that it's not the social, and it's like, because social contagion doesn't work, it's not that, it's the legal implications of what that means, because our country has made it such a thing. Society has made it such a thing that it is such a huge declaration to say, hey, this is who I am. And because our culture is designed around that, it makes it heavier than it actually needs to be. And that's unfortunate, because it's a barrier for people. It's like, hey, sometimes I feel like a she, like sometimes I don't. Like, but the society wants you to pick one. It's like, pick one, stay in your lane, stay in a lane. It doesn't matter, just be one. And that's societal pressure. That's not community pressure. And I think that's one of the things that can make things feel very heavy in a lot of ways. And also, I'll say this as well. When I began my transition, it felt very, very similar to you, Giddy, when it was just like, well, I've already lived this, I've already have a career, all these things in my mind of like, oh yeah, this is all these things. But once I started to kind of like accept myself as who I am, I started to see the clues in my past. It's like, oh yeah, I always felt weird when I had to check the M box instead of female box on doctor's forms and other forms. Oh yeah, I do remember the time that I told my cousin I wish I was a girl when I was 8 years old. Oh yeah, I remember how I really liked that show more than I should have, because it was an allegory for transness. And it is like sometimes like on the nose, like Ramna One Half, which is an anime where a character literally switches genders. Like, that cracked my eggs so hard, and I had no idea how bad that thing messed me up when I was in the Navy. So yeah, those things come up when you're able to kind of be like, oh, all right. And then you kind of introspectively look at your past and be like, oh, I guess that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. So just because you don't feel those things now doesn't mean that it's not like a memory that is in there somewhere. But I know Arden and I just said a lot to you. What are your thoughts?
Um, two thoughts. I can only take two at a time. Um, Two thoughts. This seems counter to the also thank you. Third thought. Thank you. First of three thoughts. This seems to run counter to what I've heard before, which was that being trans is innate, basically from birth. Is that still? I don't know how to deal with
Well,
that.
I'm not sure what you mean by it runs counter to it being innate. Like, I would still say that my trans identity was always there. It was always lingering in the background. It was innate to me. I mean, innate also has some philosophical implications. Let's put that aside for now. But because I know what you're talking about, Kitty. I still think that was always the case. But the problem is, it's like knowing if you really have depression, or if you really have anxiety, or if you're maybe just going through a stressful time, or if maybe you just lost some people in your life and that's been hard on you. It's like it's creating this like sort of standard for what like the real version of this thing is, when really what we're talking about is like a subjective human experience. And so trying to like fulfill some like ideal of like being, well, this is like a real person because they're innately trans, is like, that's a really hard thing to demonstrate. It's almost like an unfalsifiable claim. So it's kind of, I would be wary about kind of falling down that path. Like, interpreting our own subjective human experiences is always going to be an imperfect process. And that's why, like Josie said, talking to a professional can be really helpful in a lot of these things. And, you know, talking to the people in your life who are going to be supportive can be really helpful in you navigating like exactly where you feel you land on these issues. But yeah, I mean, it's still innate, but just because there's no perfect science for it doesn't make it not innate. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have like a specific example of how that objection comes up. I would love to hear it.
No, I was just under the impression that, like, from the stories that I've heard, that they'd say like, I always knew. I'm like, I only knew since after TACIS. So TACIS made me trans. But
right, that's a shirt right there. TACIS made me trans.
No, I'll think on that. I guess the second thing that you know what? It's been more than 30 seconds. I forgot what the second thing was. And the third.
I apologize. My joke derailed it. I just want to say one last thing, and then I want Josie to be able to jump in too. I don't want you to feel like we are trying to crack your egg or deem you trans. Like, that is 100% a journey for you to figure out and decide completely on your own. Like, no amount of, you know, isolated experiences that you could say are transcoded are going to be on their own sufficient to make you trans. So, like, putting that to bed. But, like, yeah, I think when we were saying, like, don't, you know, the destination isn't important. It's not because the identity is not intrinsic to who you are. It's because knowing that for sure is so difficult. And the standard of evidence that people hold for trans people to like be valid is so fucking high that I think it's way easier to just say, let's put all that aside. Think about what makes you feel good. Does wearing a dress make you feel good? Doesn't matter if you're cis or trans then, right? That is something you can figure out down the road. You can figure that out. And like, we've also told people all the time, like I know for a lot of trans women, facial hair is like really dysphoria inducing for a lot of us. And so maybe you want to get facial hair removal, because regardless of whether or not you transition down the line, if you would feel better without growing facial hair, you should do that. And then if down the line you're like, wow, yeah, that was really like just the gateway for me. That was like my first foot in the door. And I've realized now that I'm totally trans. Like, cool, then great. But if down the road you feel like you're not trans, that's okay too. We're not trying to prescribe you a path or a destination. We're just trying to say it's so hard to be absolutely sure beyond the shadow of a doubt that you really have the constellation of neural clusters that is the trans experience, like if that even is a thing that exists, that it's just better to kind of start thinking about your life on those smaller terms, those smaller scale, lower stakes decisions, where there's no implication for your identity or like things you have to do based on that. But they can be helpful in helping you iron out exactly where you feel like you land. But Josie, you want to get in?
Yeah. I do. And Giddy, something you said at the beginning too is like you value like experience, right? I think you said something like that. Did you say that? I can't remember. I don't want to make things up. Yeah. So I'm also
you've got a better memory than I do.
Yeah. So one of the things that, and did you grow up in Utah your whole life, if you don't mind me asking, or at least conservative areas?
No, not Utah my whole life. Elsewhere, different country, in fact.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. And the reason I asked that is because, you know, I was born and raised in Texas. I then went into the conservative institution of the Navy. I was in South Carolina, and when I was in San Diego, on the Navy, I was still on a ship around a lot of people who were ideologically more conservative. My family never exposed me to anything trans. The only time I ever really saw anything on trans people was Jerry Springer. So I thought it was like entertainment, and it wasn't an actual way to live your life in a fully fleshed out, like, thriving way. And it wasn't until I started to know trans people, started to like understand that the trans experience was a real thing. But even after I started discovering and understanding, oh, trans people can actually live, thriving lives, it still took me a second to like process that, because my upbringing didn't allow me to explore that. And so when you have these conversations, and when you look at, TACIS, for example, and you see a lot of really cool badass trans people as hosts on this show, you're like, wow, these trans people are actually pretty cool. It looks like they actually can like live their lives and actually thrive and be happy and be badass in their own right, and their whatever they're up to. And when you're able to like fully flesh that into your mind, and I'm speaking for myself, when I was able to finally like see, it's like, wow, like, the first time I saw a trans person in professional politics was Sarah McBride speaking on the DNC stage. And it was the first time I was like, wait a minute, if she can be trans and be in politics, then why can't I be trans and be in politics? And it wasn't a question of like, oh, I'm trans and now I can be trans in politics. It was more of a question of like, well, if that's the case, then what would that mean if I did that? And the fact that I even thought that was kind of like the first like brick on that road that said, okay, I guess this is actually a line of thinking that I have. And and as I've been looking in the chat, there's a lot of folks that also have experiences where they transition later in their lives. And one of the things that's really important to understand about that, and I've said this on other shows as well, everybody's path to self-discovery is different. It can be as early as 4, and it can be as late as 83 or later, right? I know a trans woman who transitioned at 81 years old, and she lived a happy 4 more years of her life, and she died happy because she actually was able to be trans and actually be able to live her life authentically. And she was 81 and then passed away. But the fact of the matter is, she was adorable. I loved her. And so just because we discover things about ourselves, and I expect to discover things about myself when I'm in my later years too. It's like it's part of the human experience to be able to be a little bit more clear about who you are as a person, right? It's questions that we ask ourselves that keep us moving forward in our full lived experience as a fully realized person in personhood and who we are as people. Some people just don't get around to asking about gender. I know I didn't get around to asking about gender because I had so much shit of emotional baggage that I had to unpack before I finally got to that foundational point of what my gender was, before I was able to address it. And I had to be at a completely different emotional place to be able to even confront that question honestly. And then even after that, I had to confront my own sexuality underneath that. And so there was like, there's so many layers to a human, right? Like we're an onion, right? We're layered. And so wherever that gender question falls within the layers of who we are as a person and how we discover ourselves is completely normal, fair, and fine. And even if you are just like, I wonder, just because you have the opportunity to do so is such a gift, that you have the emotional stability and emotional, strength to be able to ask that question authentically, when there's a lot of people in this world right now, and I'm pointing at the conservatives, that won't even confront the question of like, if a guy hugs me, is that gay? Like they're like at that point in their mind,
Yes.
right?
Just kidding.
Right? Yeah, I know. But so Giddy, just think about it as this point in your life where you're asking yourself these questions is an opportunity for you to do a better self-discovery of yourself for a full realized person. And if the question is, yep, I'm cis, great. You can just continue to move forward with your life, now understanding understanding your own cisness in a way that is more profound than most cis people that walk around. Most cis people that walk around, like I said at the beginning of this call, don't ask themselves the question, is this my actual gender? And the fact that people are asking themselves that question and even stay cis after they ask themselves this question gives them a stronger foundation of their gender than most people walking around. So I take what I ask for you to take from this whole experience of these questions is to just revel in the fact that you have the opportunity to even ask this question and actually give yourself the opportunity to go whatever direction that your heart tells you and whatever your discovery process looks like.
Okay, well, thank you. This phone call has felt like gender affirming care. I think at the current moment, with all of your words and basically an essay at this point, I think I can confidently say I am cis, but I should just be a lot more comfortable with the parts of me that are just a bit more feminine and all that jazz, and not worry so much about the labels. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry. No, thank you. Also, Josie, I think I also, when I called, what was it, like last year, and talked to you about trans stuff, and you said you were autistic. So I also became autistic after TACIS.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is your
all right.
fault.
It is.
Oh, that was always there. Don't worry.
No, I will claim that, Arden. Do not take this from me.
Sorry. No, thank you for calling, Giddy. I appreciate this call. I honestly thought this was going to be quicker and not quite as like in depth, but I actually thought this was like a really nice and productive conversation, really meaningful. So thank you for bringing it to us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Giddy.
Yeah, sorry, I talk a lot.
No, it was great.
No, we talk a lot.
Yeah, we talked way more than you did.
That's the joke.
Okay,
Anyway,
got you. Yeah, thanks, Giddy.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
I also think Matt put in the chat too, and like, it's a really good point. He didn't put that at this point. I'm going to add on to it, but about how like gay people, like being gay is innate, right? Like your sexuality is an innate part of you, and yet how many people went a lifetime, a marriage of kids who grew up and went to college before they were even able to contend with potentially the fact that their sexuality might be different from the expected. And that is an example of what we call in the queer community comp het, or compulsory heteronormativity. This feeling that because you grew up in a heterosexual society where most people are straight, that you must too also be straight. And those icky feelings you have when you try to date or have sex with somebody of the other gender, that's just that person. And that isn't really you. You just haven't found the right one yet. And people don't even allow themselves to contend with the possibility of them being gay. And many do go so long without knowing it, you know, these innate parts of ourselves. It's also, and I think innate kind of becomes a trap because like we were saying earlier, innate might have some like philosophical implications that are necessarily don't work here, but that like this does feel like a part of yourself that is just built in, you know, there's no real reason for it. You can't point to the chromosome or necessarily a hormone wash or a brain structure. It's just a thing that is. And there's lots of things like that about humans. I mean, everything about who you are as a person, right? We live in a very individualistic society, like your likes, your preferences, which hand you write with, who you like to date, who you like to boink, and how you like to wear your hair. All of those things are like completely subjective, but like intrinsic in some sense, part of yourself. Yeah, so it was a really good call. I was honestly expecting that to be like, I don't know, a totally different call. I thought that was really good vibes all the way through.
It was great. You know, it's because it's so relatable, because I think we all sit in that position of like, am I trans? Am I trans? Am I trans? Am I trans? And it's like, and you're just like, and because we don't have the tools to explore that and like have different perspectives kind of like come into that conversation, it's harder to be able to explore it without it just turning into an anxiety spiral. At least that's what it was for me. I was like not functional for like several weeks because I could not think about anything else. I was just in a puddle of just like a gender puddle of just like, what am I? Am I some amorphous blob? Like, what is this happening to me right now? Like, just like.
Listen, sometimes that still happens to me. No, I'm just
sometimes we're just genderless amorphous blobs, and that's okay too.
Sometimes we are just a human, and it don't got to be all that complicated. Okay. Normally, I would want to take another call before we hit the poll, but honestly, that was a decent length call, so let's hit the poll right now. So to go back to the poll that we said at the beginning of the show. Question was, is the stock market crash because of trans athletes? I know the dramatic sigh is really selling it. So, I mean, the reason we're getting into this, I think, is pretty obvious, right? Like, how much time and energy has the GOP spent on campaign ads, on, flying people across the country to testify at hearings for bills, at hosting a D-Trans Awareness Day, like making an anti-transgender holiday official at the White House. They're doing all of this work to make people hate us or think that trans people are a problem, when, as we looked at earlier, like, that doesn't really seem to be a significant concern for most Americans, as far as I can tell. But the joke is sort of like, we're responsible for everything, right? Like, everything that goes wrong seems to be our fault. So I'm waiting for somebody to explain why the stock market crash is also totally because of trans athletes.
Yeah, and honestly, when I proposed this, because Arden texted me and was like, "What's the poll question?" And I was like, "This was my answer to the question." And the reason I said that is because just recently, when the stock market was like really cratering a few days ago, Senator Tommy Tuberville, Tommy, is that your real name? Anyway, Senator Tommy Tuberville, when was being asked questions, was like, well, entire men's teams are turning trans and all of that type of stuff. And it's like he completely avoided the stock questions and went right into like trans athletes. And this is the issue. And we also saw this happen too during the same period of time of like, oh, the female Spencer knelt and refused to compete against, it's like they immediately went to the trans athlete stories and started talking about those when people were literally losing their retirements, right? Like,
right.
This is what they do. And so that's kind of why I thought it would be funny to talk about this, because this is what some people are reading about right now, instead of the fact that the stock market is literally crashing into the ground.
Yeah, I saw that clip from Tommy Tuberville. That is so... I didn't see the context to know that was a question that was asked was related to the stock market beforehand, but yeah, what a ridiculous statement, which he has no ability to back up. I would genuinely bet, like, every living child in America right now, like, blood sacrifice, that he could not back up the position that there is an entire team of men transitioning for the purpose of winning at some sport. Like, that is just not a thing that exists. That is a complete fabrication. It's so fucking insane. Yeah, it's
Anyway, and I'm not sure if he was asked a question directly about the stock market, but I'm pretty sure he was on because the chaos that was happening.
Sure.
He pivoted from there. When you get that gimme question on that reporter, it's like, oh, well, what do you think we need to be talking about? That.
It's the safe pet issue they can always go to. It's an issue where they feel if they appeal to trans people in sports. I mean, John Oliver did a great special on trans people in sports just this past week. He missed a few things that I think were important, but we don't have to get into that right this minute. Overall, it was phenomenal. And he talked about how, if you put trans people in sports at the end of a sentence, you can say almost anything you want to. Like, it doesn't matter how ridiculous the scenario that you're trying to, or, the economic policies you're trying to defend. If you can shift it back to trans people in sports, you've positioned yourself in this like moral high ground to the like Christian nationalist voter base. And so, it's pretty sad and pathetic. Real quickly, I want to call out somebody in chat, Brady Thompson, who keeps posting stuff and then going, I'm just asking questions. Why should I call in? Because this is a call-in show, and this isn't an open chat or a free speech chat. This is a moderated chat that is meant to direct people like you to call in and have a discussion. If you're confident about your beliefs and you want to advocate for something, you should call in. But we're not going to have you just spamming things about gender dysphoria and body image issues in the chat. So, thanks, mods, for doing your work. All right. We're going to get back to calls, but real quick, I do want to remind you guys that we will be reading super chats at the end. All super chats of $5 or more that include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Josie. Well, they don't have to include the hashtag. Sorry, let me try it again. Rewind it back. Let's do a good announcement, not a completely shit one. All super chats of $5 or more will be read out live by Josie and I at the end of the show. And if you include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Josie in your chat, you'll be giving 1 point to one of us for our team competition. And whoever gets the least amount of points has to spend 2 minutes defending a ridiculous position. I'm not going to put up the poll yet, but I do have them. Our options are to establish the drag queen monarchy. We've done that one before. It didn't work. Presidential elections by Mario Kart. Or return blue back to women. If you don't know, blue used to be a girl's color. Then the Nazis happened. And then pink became the girl color. I think women should get blue back, honestly. Blue is a superior color. Give blue back to women.
Wait, the Nazis stole blue from us?
Well, that might be like a pop culture like lie thing that you hear all the time. The story goes that the pink triangles that they put on queer people was like a way of sort of tying femininity and queerness to the pink color. And I don't know how blue then became the boy color. That is the thing they tell you in pop culture all the time. I actually have no fucking idea if that's real or not. It was mostly being silly, but yes, return blue back to women. Blue should be a girl's color. Okay, let's talk to a caller. Let's do Razor. Razor, he, they in California wants to talk about the parental rights movement and seeing children as property rather than people. So, Razor, you are live on Transatlantic with Arden and Josie. What's going on?
Hello. Hope you guys. Hope y'all are doing well.
Doing all right.
Yeah.
Can we? It sounds kind of like your phone is in a bag of chips. If we could make that not happen, it would be great.
I apologize. I have plastic.
Okay, I understand.
Like the last time. Yeah, like the last time I spoke with y'all, I am like technically working at the same time.
Okay, no worries. But go for it. What do you want to talk about?
Go for it.
Okay. Oh, and just real fast for those poll things, I'm just gonna say now. Give pink back to boys. I look amazing in it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right
on. But yes, when it comes to the whole parental rights movement, especially from the religious right, it always throws me off just how much parents are like inherently what seems to me sexist and towards their kids even before they're born, because I've seen plenty of parents who they hear about like what their kid's going to be when they're born. They're going to be assigned male or female, and if they're assigned male, they're like, yeah, it's a girl. They get sad, and half of that I feel is just because they don't want a girl because they don't like women, or because they're afraid of what will happen to them. So I'd be cool with having a conversation on that aspect. I'm sorry, I'm like really scatterbrained trying to figure out how to word this correctly.
You're doing all right?
It's because I speak to my partner about this all the time, and like how the parental rights movement basically always ends up turning into the whole Southern Baptist Christian statement of, I brought you into this world, I can take you out, as if they see their children as property and not as actual human beings that they have to raise. And I feel like, would that be like one of the big, I feel like that's like one of the biggest reasons why it seems to work so well with Christians when it comes to, say, kids who are trans, and why so many parents get so up in arms about it, because they feel like they're losing their property to someone who's becoming more individualistic as themselves and not what the parent wanted them to be.
Yeah, I think you are very much onto something there. And there's part of me that has a little bit of sympathy for where parents are coming from. Like with regard to specifically on this parental rights conversation, some of the policies. Also, if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on mute while I talk. While Josie and I talk, just so it doesn't get that background sound. But on some of the policies that are being advocated for with regard to like parental rights, you'll hear things like, "Oh, if a kid comes out as trans at school, they have to notify the parents," right? And a lot of parents will say, "Well, if my kid was identifying as trans at school, I would want to know." And that is the part that I have sympathy with, the wanting to know, right? It makes perfect sense. If you're a parent, you want to know what's going on with your kid. You want to know what's going on in their life and the things that they're going on at school. And a lot of kids are kind of going through this process of trying to like identify themselves as a separate individual from their parents. And so they won't maybe necessarily tell them everything that happens all the time. But the problem is that, as you're pointing out, Razor, kids are actually whole people. They're actually individual humans with autonomy and a sense of self separate from their parents. And they might have the wherewithal to recognize, if I come out as trans to my parents, they're going to abuse the shit out of me, or they're going to kick me out and I'm going to be homeless. How am I going to finish school that way? And so they might say, oh, school is where I can be myself, where I can come out to my counselor or my friends. And then when I go home, I don't have to tell them that, because they're going to abuse the shit out of me if they find out that information. But what's not going to change me? So it's a matter of like safety for that individual, right? And so, yeah, I do have, it's like, we all want kids to have the best outcomes possible, right? We want them to be happy and healthy and to be like well connected to their parents and like a healthy dynamic and everything like that. But the reality is that that's not the world we live in. Not everyone has a healthy dynamic. Not everyone's interconnected with their family like that. And so, unfortunately, we have to, in some ways, add protections for kids where they do not have to always be valued as like the property of their parents. But unfortunately, that's just the system we live in, and it would take a massive paradigm shift in our culture for that to change, I think. But Josie, you have thoughts on that too?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts.
Bring it.
So, yeah, I know, right? So just here in the state of Maryland recently, they just passed a bill that was designed to basically instill sexual education in the education system without the ability for parents to opt out of certain sections of that education. Well, they put in an amendment at the last minute to say, except for sex orientation and gender identity, parents still have the opportunity to opt their kids out of that. And it's really, really incredibly frustrating, because it comes back to the original point of the fact that parents feel that they need to have the ability to control the consumption of information to their child, because again, they see them as a form of a mini me, or they want to control them. They want them to grow up in their own image. And it's a very outdated way of thinking. I think it's fair to call it on religion, but there's also people who are incredibly narcissistic and want their kids to be a better version of themselves, because they see their kids as an extension of themselves. So beyond just, because that's essentially what my biological father was like, exactly like that. Yeah, right. So it's like, you're supposed to be better than me because you are a direct representation of who I am as a person. And it's really, really frustrating. And I've even had these situations happen in a personal way, where I had, as an aunt, had a conversation with one of my my nephews about, hey, being gay is okay, because he said something about like gay is gross, and I'm like, well, let's have a conversation about that, because it's not gross. It's how people show up. It's like, wearing eyeglasses, like you can't change that fact about yourself. Like, so when his father came back, he wanted to almost get in a fist fight with me, which is wild, because how dare I have a conversation with his child about gay being okay? And it was really harmful to everybody in the family when that happened, because it's like, wait, like it's family. It's not like I was trying to do anything other than just educate your child. You're welcome. But it's kind of like, it's one of those situations where people feel and it comes back to part of the conversation that I had before, where they feel like if I don't teach my kid that trans exists, so therefore they will never be trans, because they believe in the social contagion. They believe that outside influences have the ability to interpret how their kid is going to grow up and how they're going to. And before there was acceptance of queer identities and trans identities, it was like, how dare you be a dancer? No, you're not going to be a dancer. You're going to work in the coal mine, like my forefathers did, right? And so it all comes back to those old school traditional values that come back to like, oh, we're farmers in our family, and you're going to take over the farm, or you're going to take over the small business. And it has this like this planning that the adult is having around their child's future, instead of promoting their child in a way that is like, you can be whatever you want. It's whatever you want. I'm here as a parent to help give you shelter, clothing, food, and the ability to have an education and have access to self-discovery about yourself. But a lot of people were never raised that way, and it creates a perpetual cycle of just really harmful ideologies. And so beyond just Christianity, it's just how people feel that they have the right to raise their kids. And it's the old adage of hurt people, where dad's grandpa would be abusive because dad wanted to do something different than work in the factory. And then before him, it was like, oh, that you couldn't even choose who you were going to marry. The parents had the right to choose who you were going to marry. And then before that, it was like, I'm going to make sure if you have the right, if I can sell you or not to the factory as a child laborer. Like, these things existed. And so we are dealing with ancient societal ways of raising children that we are trying to break people out of. And some people are further ahead than others. And unfortunately, religion kind of puts it into the system of like, no, you raise your kid to be Christian. You can't raise them to be anything else. So anyways, that's some of my points of view there.
We put you back so we can hear your thoughts. Sorry about that, Razor. I hate doing it that way, but we had to.
No, I understand entirely. I'm basically in a backroom warehouse. We're good.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's what the noises are. So yeah, no, I obviously agree with like all of your points when it comes to where all this originated, what's going on with it. God, I have this conversation with my partner all the time, so I have like a million points I want to go over, but I know I don't have that much time. Yeah,
you're
like
right. What do you think is the most important?
Yeah, the thing that I think is the most important to go over is usually like, would there be a way for people like like me, you, and whoever to speak to future parents about about certain things? Obviously, there's parental counseling and stuff that people can go to, but like there's so many times where people hear the word counseling and they immediately shut their brains off. Mm-hmm. So it would be really hard to convince people that it will be good to take said counseling to make sure that they're raising their kids properly and not at all abusive, like what could have happened to them in their past, which again is another thing. I think it really does boil down. I feel like it does. What I'm thinking does just boil down to, I feel like everyone needs to go to therapy, but no one wants to. And that's what causes a lot of the continuous cycle that you were talking about of the hurt people hurting people type of thing, right?
Yeah, I hear you. Definitely, everyone's not going to go to therapy. I think probably one of the more effective ways to mass influence a lot of people like that, though, is, well, there are other ways, but unfortunately, the Trump administration is making financing a lot of that stuff difficult right now, like research and whatever. But like media, I think would be really huge for our future. I know like Laverne Cox has a show coming up on Amazon Prime that's going to have a lot to do with kind of the trans experience of like an estranged father kind of thing. And I think that kind of stuff will be really impactful for people to be like, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. There's actually, I hope, like, I'm sure you know about the show Bluey.
I'm aware of it. That's the dog, right? An animated dog for kids? Okay.
Yeah. And Bluey's a girl dog.
Okay.
Yes. Caught me off guard when I heard that. It's the same with Blue, the original dog of my generation.
Yeah, right. Blue is a girl dog too.
Yeah. But that show is absolutely amazing, not only for kids, but even for the parents that are watching with them. My partner absolutely loves Bluey. Like an adult who loves watching Bluey, because the different episodes that it shows is like, it's not just showing kids like proper ways of like sharing, being nice, like how to interact with other kids and everything, but it also ends up showing like some pretty heavy topics that it goes over the kids' head, but if the parents watching it, they immediately catch on to what's being said, and it's almost a teaching tool for parents on how to raise their kids to be a little bit happier and healthier. So yeah, shows like, so I do agree with you, like media is definitely a big thing, and I feel like shows like Bluey are definitely a step in the right direction, and I'll probably look at that Laverne Cox show you're talking about, because that sounds fun.
Yeah, somebody just put in chat. It's called Clean Slate, and it's already live on Prime. But yeah, I do think that stuff is really impactful. Josie, do you want to get in there?
I mean, I think it's essentially, kind of just retreading what I've already said. But yeah, Razor, I agree. It really is a lot of just being a parent and just like letting go of the idea that your child is going to grow up a certain way, because it only leads to disappointment, right? And I think that's the biggest thing as well. Right, is a parent says, "Oh, you're going to do all of these things," and then when the kid doesn't live up to this ridiculous expectation that is impossible to uphold, then it leads to a disappointment. Right? I'm sure you've heard, "You're such a disappointment to us." It's like, what does that even mean?
I'm so glad I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, but the parents have done that, right? And especially in the queer community, where parents are just like, "You're such a disappointment. Why aren't you doing
fuck
this
up,
thing with
dude?"
My God.
My dad is usually like, he's pretty bad, but I've heard of way worse than him in so many times, but I got called a fuck up. I'm like, man, that is like disappointment on crack. Like, I don't know why you needed to say that. That was a little harsh, but yeah, no, I think it is a very, I mean, and we're talking about all this in the respect to like queer and trans identities, but like so many people in chat have been expressing like, not even necessarily from a trans perspective, that like so many parents are like this. Like, I think it really is a broad experience. And I think, like you're saying, shows like Bluey that can kind of touch on that can be really helpful. And maybe that is, I mean, this is the frustrating thing though, is I'm like, oh yeah, maybe like kids shows like that are such a good way to do that. And yet, like, while Disney is also doing some good defense of their DEI policies, which is good, and I like that, they also are like pulling trans scenes from some of their kids shows. And it's like, we're in this constant battle.
The animatic for that one.
Yeah.
And seeing the animatic actually pulled at my heartstrings. I cried watching just that, and the fact that they didn't go full ham and post it entirely, and actually not post it, air it entirely, it pisses me off to high heaven.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I've gotten cochina before. Which is dirty woman.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
That's amazing.
But and it wasn't even because I was trans. It was because I'm polyamorous. It's like, that's so cochina. It's like a family member like saying that.
So fun.
I know, right?
So many people to love, so little time.
I know.
You, Jezebel. You just can't get enough. Well, Razor, we do have some other callers we have to get to, so I want to give you a chance to give a last word, and then we're going to move on, okay?
Okay. Okay, I'll make my last word just one last question, okay?
Okay.
Yep.
Is that cool? Did you know the Line has a podcast?
The Line has a podcast? Oh my god. With
I
Jimmy
thought- I
Snow?
think they're
Line has a
only like-
podcast.
Oh,
Really?
yeah.
I
everyone
heard
should
there's only
totally
like
check that
2
out. You
episodes
guys
in
have a
the-
good.
I heard there's like 2 episodes of that in like 4 months. So
Wow.
No, the Line has a podcast has been doing
You
good.
guys should do that.
Jimmy
They have
Snow
been
has a
doing good.
podcast. Had like I love you, Jimmy. Had like 2 episodes in 4 months, but the Line has a podcast has
true.
been going strong. So
that's true. That is true. That is true.
Awesome.
I'm giving the Line a hard time. But yes, the Line has a podcast. I heard that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There
Thank you
go.
so much,
Free
Razor.
Free plug from an audience member. You have a good one.
You too.
Thank you,
Bye now.
Razor. Bye.
That's so funny. You know, the most wise thing Jimmy ever said was that he realized that he's just not good enough to do it on his own, and he needs other people involved. And that's why the Line does so well.
That's what it does.
Listen, we all love to shit on Jimmy. It's just the company
All right.
culture here.
I'm gonna go ahead and do it too. Hey, Brady Thompson, like, stop being a little bitch, and then you freaking come on and talk to me. If you have something to say, then fucking say it. All right, like I will say this if you just didn't read it. I can guarantee you, I have a better sense of my own gender identity than you do of yours. So prove me wrong. Bring it.
I had to close the lines. I will say, Brady had an opportunity to call. He was tagged for the last like half an hour nonstop to call in, and he didn't. He's a fucking coward who feels really big and tough from behind his keyboard, where he could say, "Oh, you're really a man," but you have no actual fucking stones to show up here and defend your position. You're pathetic.
I know.
You're a coward.
Pathetic.
It's so funny how often people are like, they like to mock trans positions, like on like issues and things like that. But we have so many opportunities for you to call in, and you guys never do. You don't. I mean, we do occasionally have some of those calls, but by and large, none of like it's genuinely sad for them. So
it really is.
But call back next week. Also, my camera's like out of focus. Can we get back here? Okay, there we go. That looks a little sharper. Okay, I did close the lines because I don't want our screener to be on the hook here for longer than she asked me. Thank you, Jess, for what you do, by the way. You're amazing. You're incredible. Yes, we'd be nothing without you.
True.
All right. Let's see. Is there anyone that piques your interest? No one's particularly spicy, but maybe we have a couple of calls that could be a good.
I think we can maybe go with Jeremy.
Okay.
Alabama.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk to Jeremy, him in Alabama, who wants to know if transitioning could instill societal gender norms. So super interesting conversation. Jeremy, you are live with Arden and Josie. Thanks for calling in. Why don't you tell us what's going on?
Thanks for having me. Well, this is just something I think about quite often. And of course, I mean, like, no disrespect, but it's sort of a question I've always had on my mind. If the act of transitioning and how we apply traits to people, like long hair or painted fingernails with women, or we have the same thing with men. If transitioning and identifying as the different sex, if it instills different gender norms that society has built.
Yeah.
What do you mean by instills different society norms? Do you mean the ones that are already in place? So, for example, like a trans woman who is binary decides to, go through the transition and be like societally, the way society sees women as, or are you talking about something different?
I'm talking like, I just feel like it almost strengthens the societal norms that we put on people in the beginning, when we're children. And I just wonder what your thoughts are on that. And it's not like some kind of gotcha. I mean,
no,
I
hear you.
Something I've always been curious about.
Sure. But before I jump into that, I have a question for you in this to kind of better clarify of how I want to approach this. So when you're saying, would the opposite be that the gender norms that we have right now are arbitrary and we shouldn't have them? Is that where your position? Where is the position you're starting? So you're starting from like a gender liberationist point of view.
I guess I'd say that. Yeah.
So you think that gender norms are arbitrary and shouldn't be reinforced? Is your position of where you're standing? Okay. Yeah. Sorry to put you in, I didn't mean to put you in a box, but it allows me to kind of have a better argument. Yeah. So, it's a good question. I get this a lot. I'm sure we've got a couple times on the show as well. And so one of the things that one of the things that has to be understood from the premise is that unfortunately or fortunately, however you take a look at it, we do live in a society where strict gender norms are usually the default position of our society, at least here in America and most of the world. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. So when we are living in such a rigid society at the moment, the only way to be accepted by certain people in society, unfortunately, and I'll say unfortunately, is to take these steps to be seen as a woman, for example. So for me, for example, I am a binary trans woman. And for me, when I had my, quote unquote transition goals, they say it as the kids say these days. The For me, it was very similar to the presentation of my mother, my family, my aunts, my sister, and the people that I respected in my life that put in that strength and femininity in the way that they presented really resonated with me deeply because, as somebody that is a binary trans woman, I wanted to be seen as a woman in society at large because my gender dysphoria really comes from a social place. So for me, being seen as a woman by the people around me gives me a lot of gender euphoria in a sense, or just no gender dysphoria, if you want to say. Yeah. So the reason that I chose that route was because I was dealing with my own identities. So the best way that I knew how to do it was to say, I am a woman, and I want my everything that my expression is to align with the societal standard, quote unquote, of what is femininity. And I like the trappings of femininity. I enjoy them. So coming from the place of where we start in society of it being rigid gender norms, for me to alleviate my gender dysphoria, or not alleviate, or lessen, or however you want to say it, I had to kind of go down the path that society said was what a woman essentially is presentation expressed in our society. So I didn't have the ability, regardless if I agree or disagree, to kind of say, I buck the gender norms. I don't care. I'm a woman. I'm going to say I'm a woman in this way, because that doesn't change the reality that the society will never agree with me. And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of non-binary people about this as well, where it's like, I wish that we had more of a gender fluid society that allowed us to be more expressive in the way that we feel comfortable, rather than the expressions that society has assigned to us. And so that's the reasoning my transition was so traditionally, societally, I guess, accepted in a sense. And like, I have, quote unquote passing privilege because I chose to go down that path for myself. And so regardless if I agree or disagree, if I want to be seen as a woman in this society by the general public, I kind of had to do this thing. And that's kind of the locked in mode that I had to go into for me to feel comfortable in our modern day society. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I appreciate you telling me that, because I fully agree. I think when I ask that question, I sort of like, in my mind, I have like sort of a utopian vision where it's all just where we start off as, just as people, the cliche that we often talk about. And I'm curious on like what, like, I also kind of feel that I don't think women should wear makeup. I think clothes should just be clothes. This is something I've believed for a long time, and it's funny coming from me because I am a straight white male, funny enough, but it's just something that's been on my mind for a long time, and I wonder. I don't think it's doing harm, but I understand that we're just kind of working with what we have, and it alleviates people's feeling of displacement in society, and so I can understand your position.
Could I ask you a few questions, Jeremy?
Sure.
So is the concern that transition like uniquely reinforces gender roles in a way that cis people don't?
No.
Okay. So then I think my question is, if not, now I appreciate this is a trans call-in show. You're calling trans people, but so I'm not necessarily talking about you necessarily here, because I think this conversation happens a lot and this question gets lodged towards trans people a lot. But it feels to me like when this question is asked, like trans people are being held to like a higher standard for upholding this sort of gender liberated utopia, which by the way, I'm totally on board with. Like I would love to live in that world, but as was already pointed out, we don't. And it just kind of feels to me like there's an expectation that trans people have to be busting down these doors all the time, but that it's totally like, but that burden isn't put on cis people. And I mean, I don't know if you've seen cis people, but like gender reveal parties, have you seen weddings? Hello, watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Oh my God, the performance of gender from cis people is insane. The reinforcement of gender roles is insane. And so, yeah, I always just kind of think like, it feels like we're holding trans people to this different standard when we ask this question of like upholding this utopian vision. And like Matt put it in the chat, but I also had it in my notes before I saw that. I also thought it was interesting, and I think maybe this was just a slip of the word, but I also kind of want to poke into, you said women shouldn't wear makeup, and maybe you meant more something like women shouldn't be expected to wear makeup. Because I would say that like makeup is a form of self-expression. Whether you're a man or a woman, I think anyone should be allowed to wear whatever kind of makeup they do or don't want. Because like also, I think it's worth noting, sorry, last thing, and then I'll pass it to you. I realize I'm rambling now. That I also think, in my view, the gender liberated utopia is going to include people who perform gender in what we now consider the traditional way. Like, to me, the gender utopia is freeing people from the expectation of doing X, Y, or Z, not telling them by doing X, Y, and Z, you are ruining it for everyone, right? Like, if somebody wants to be a stay-at-home mom, a trad wife or whatever, like, I think a gender liberated utopia would enable them to do that and say, you want to do that? Good for you. Let's set up a society where you can do that, and other women can go be the CEO and can go, be the boss babe and can like be good at sports and all these other things. So yeah, I admire the gender liberated utopia, but I think there's maybe a mistake in thinking that means that there's going to be no performance of traditional gender in that society.
That's understandable, and I understand where you're coming from with this question. It does sound a little bit like I am putting like emphasis that trans people need to work harder for this utopia, and that's not really where I'm coming from, or at least I'm not trying to.
Sure.
And I think what I think about, especially with makeup, my whole point with makeup is that I think makeup, to me, I think is just, it's not good, and I don't, honestly, this is in my own, remember, this is in my utopian vision. This is not real, and I realize that it's so unrealistic, and it'll probably take a long time for any of these things to be changed, and we'll probably always be dealing with these gender norms. But to me, makeup is a form of self-expression, no doubt about that. But I also think that it's also an attempt to hide our natural state of being. And now, I'm not religious or anything, but I think if we were to remove all of it, and this might be a little radical, and my voice is shaky. I'm a little nervous. I don't usually call.
No,
You're doing great.
nervous. It's fine. You're doing great. We're not here to attack you. Please know that you're calling good faith. It's fine, Jeremy.
Well, what my point is that I think if we were to get rid of these socially performative actions, that we'll be ultimately happy. And if someone we consider people by societal standards to have ugly features or not. But if we got rid of those standards, people wouldn't just be ugly. They wouldn't be beautiful. It wouldn't be, we were just complete. We're animals at the end of the day. We're primates. We're apes. And I think when we get closer to that, to our natural state of being, I think it might be a happier world. But I understand with the situation that we're in and the society that's already been built, we have to work with what we have, and I don't.
Jeremy, can I jump in really quick?
Sure.
I know,
sure.
Arden, I'm going to jump in real quick. I'm sorry,
I just
I'll
took
let you talk.
notes, so I'm going to write more notes.
Okay, write those notes. So Jeremy, I have to say this. I don't wear makeup for other people. I wear makeup for myself. And it's kind of like how I want to kind of just like, I'm just presenting in that way. And I think that in maybe do a little self-analysis on this as well, is that somebody wearing makeup is not really for you in a sense, right? It's not for the gaze of looking prettier for people. Some people want to look prettier because it makes them feel better and more confident, kind of like some men will wear a power suit and they have a power tie and they feel more confident when they're wearing that. And it's like some people want to put on, makeup to make themselves feel more confident in the way that they are and how they show up. And so I think that trying to take the idea of makeup being for society and be like makeup for the individual person is, I think, a little bit better framing. So it doesn't make it look like I'm putting all this makeup on for your pleasure. And I know in society, it's like it's seen that way a lot of times. But in fact, the way makeup has been weaponized against women, hell, makeup used to have heavy metals and lead in it, right? Like in the days when women started to become part of the workforce, women were required to wear makeup to be able to go into work, were required to wear a skirt to be able to work as well. Or if you even take a look at culturally, like women were also supposed to paint their faces, and you can also even take a look at in society and politics, men used to wear powdered wigs and powder on their faces. So there's a lot of like cultural touchstones to like the idea of makeup, but I feel like there has been a movement in society, at least for the feminine and the masculine people, that has say, no, I'm going to put on eyeliner because I look snatch an eyeliner and I like myself looking like this for myself and not for the male gaze, or and I think that's where a lot of this is stemming from as well, because me wearing makeup is not a signal for society. Me wearing makeup is because I want to wear makeup that day. If that makes sense. But go ahead, Arden. You had a lot to say too.
Yeah, I think, Jeremy, you're touching on something that, and I said this, that I do agree with, which is, and I think Josie kind of just touched on this too, which is that like the expectation that women wear makeup is absolutely a problem. Like the fact that a lot of women in like the corporate world, it's considered unprofessional if they don't have makeup, that's wrong to me. Women should be allowed to show up in their, as you put it, natural state if they want. But I think that it's a complete mistake to say that it's an attempt to hide our natural state of being. And I want to dig into that a little more because, first of all, it's just like a naturalistic fallacy. I don't think you have any way of knowing that our natural state is what's better. Our natural state is just what was sufficient to help us survive in our evolutionary history. And it actually doesn't really necessarily say anything about what is best for us. Because like you could, if you want to like add reductio ad absurdum, that principle, like, are you allowed to cut your hair? Should we be allowed to have clothes? Should we be allowed to have houses? Because none of that is our natural state either. Our natural state is sleeping by the riverside and chasing down prey on the savannah with tools. Like, and personally, I don't want to go back to that. So like, I do think what you're touching on, which is accurate again, is that notion of like the expectation, the burden for women to wear makeup is a problem. But makeup itself, I don't think is actually problematic at all. It is just an artistic expression, no different than what clothes you wear, how you like to decorate the front of your house, like what kind of bumper stickers you like to put on your car. It's just a way of expressing yourself. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily.
I can understand that. I might be coming at this from a little too harsh of a view. And you're right. It does kind of make it sound like that I am it's almost like I'm compensating. It's like I'm almost going so far the other way. But I really do still hold that view that, and it's not like I can understand how the word natural state. I just think that like if society accepted us for the way we are born immediately, and there was no standards on the way we were supposed to act, I think that would be a utopia. But I understand what you're saying, and I promise I'm not a transphobe. I swear to God.
I'm not getting that. I'm not getting that from you, Jeremy. Listen,
we're not
I agree with you. I would love to see a world where people are just across the board. You are a part of the human population. We care about you, and we're going to do our best to raise you and give you the best chance you have at life. But in my view, a society that is gender liberated from expectations isn't going to have less makeup, isn't going to have more naturalistic presentations. That's going to be one that is like transhumanist, where there's way more people wearing way more dramatic kinds of and expressive kinds of makeup, where you're going to see people, getting the cut forked tongue thing more often, or like I just saw like researchers developed like a second thumb appendage for people who only have like one hand, so they can have two thumbs on one hand, from like amputees and things like that. Like, I think we're going to see transhumanist future is going to be the truly liberated of expectations, where people can be whatever they want to be, that we are capable of providing to them in this lifetime. And that, I think that's exciting to me. Like, that is like the Star Trek, like people call it the like, what is it? Like space communism or whatever. Yeah. Like that sounds really cool to me. Like, where people are able to, whatever is within the bounds of our capabilities, to like scrape together from the world that we're in to give you the best life that you want for yourself, regardless of whether that is natural or if it's artificial. You should be allowed to make those decisions for yourself and to not be judged for them. I think that is a truly liberated society. I think it's such a mistake to assume that everyone's going to want to be, and lots of people are going to want to be natural, by the way. Lots of people are going to be like, I can't wait to stop cutting my hair and to grow out my armpit hair. Like, women are going to be hairy all over again, and we're going to be working the farm. Like, cool. If people want that, that's great. They should be allowed to do that. I just think that liberation means free to make decisions about yourself, not like, I think the second we start putting moral weight on things like makeup that are really like morally neutral, you are building expectations back in. Like, you're not doing natural liberated womanhood right because you're wearing makeup. It's like we're redoing the whole thing all over again,
redoing it differently. And I would just want to add this as well, is like, we know through anthropology that humans are social creatures. Humans we're tribalistic. You can go to the most remote places on the planet that have very little or zero interaction with the other parts of the world, and guess what? They have culture too. They may have tattoos that they feel is traditional for them, and they choose to make that part of their society. They may have different clothing situations and how they express themselves in different ways. Just like whales will hunt differently, just like chimpanzees will have different cultural standards of how they want to use their tools that they have available to them. It's societally how humans culturally kind of interact with each other, because 1,000 years from now, maybe we're supposed to put stripes on our face again, right? Like, maybe we're supposed to do that type of stuff. And if this many stripes means this many things, right? And it's like I think that that's what makes humanity beautiful, is that humanity has this rich tapestry of everybody's self-expression has their own mark on the way they feel that being a human is for them. And I think that in a world, let's say, if Jeremy, for the hypothetical sake of your utopia that you say that you would like to see, I think it'd be pretty plain if everybody had no makeup, if everybody had like the ability to kind of just like blah whatever clothing and stuff like that. But it's kind of like, I still think that takes away something that makes humanity beautiful, because I
Yeah.
want to see the drag queens on the street looking fly. I want to see like all of these different people wearing their thing. I want to see the person in the suit going to wherever they're going to go to. I want to see the person just wearing, the bikini top going. I love the tapestry, the texture that humanity puts in the way that they look. And I think, to me, that's utopia, for everybody to be able to express themselves in a way that is themselves, because it only enriches the beautiful color of the tapestry that is humanity. Does that make sense on how I view it?
Yes, it does. It does. I know. I honestly, I understand it, and maybe I should start taking that into consideration. So
Yeah.
I don't think I have
Yeah.
anything left to say, but I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks,
thank you,
Jeremy. It was a good
Jeremy.
conversation. You have a good
It
day.
was. I love that.
For sure. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I hear people do this a lot. This sort of like, it's such a trap too that's very common in our society. This notion of like, there's such like a chemophobia, like a fear of chemicals and a fear of like unnatural things that is so fallacious. And it's like really a shame, because I do think it is like that. Just to me, that is true liberation. Being able to like, do we have the technology to give you a rhino horn? Is having a rhino horn going to make you a happier person? Why do I care?
No, a unicorn horn would.
There's no moral weight to, now if it's a weight on their health or the risk of safety to others, then that's a different question. But as far as makeup goes, I don't see how there's any risk of safety to the health of the self or others by somebody deciding to express themselves in a particular way.
I agree with that. And also, I think sometimes people also blend their own, like, what they find attractive in this as well, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
some people like a person that doesn't wear makeup and is attracted to that. And that's fine and fair, because some people don't want to wear makeup at all, and you can be attracted to the people that don't like to wear makeup. It's all based on our own, chemical processes that happen in their brain when they see somebody walking the street to figure out if this person's attractive or not. And sometimes in that calculus, it is no tattoos. Sometimes in that calculus, it is like no makeup. Sometimes in the calculus, it is wearing high heels and a short booty shorts. Like it doesn't matter. Like, people have different points of view of what they feel is attractive.
Yeah,
as
I was
well, and they
also
blend that.
totally. I kind of wanted to. It was belaboring the point, so I didn't want to get into it. But I wanted to know about like his thoughts on hair, because like I actually did my hair today. You guys will know I haven't been wearing much makeup at all in the last like year, and I almost never do my hair. But today, my makeup and hair are done. Like, is that a problem? I'm like, wow, do I look that bad most of the time? You're like, finally, you don't look like shit. Oh my god.
Lily Arden doesn't look like a trash bag.
Well, we got other callers on the line.
I'm just kidding, Arden. I love you.
No, I know. I love you too.
I noticed that I put a lot less makeup on, and you are like outshining me right now, and I'm just like, damn, I should have put more makeup on. No, because these lights are brutal if you're not wearing makeup. Okay. No, Arden, you always look beautiful. I'm just kidding.
Thank you. You do too. Okay, we have 3 callers left on the line. What do you say we talk to 9-5 first? And then
Okay, sure.
Okay. All right, let's talk to Darkly Yours, any or all pronouns in Indiana. Wants to know about Josie's opinion on how Democrats could support progressive trans policies. So, Darkly, you are live with Arden and Josie. Get into it.
Oh, I got invested in listening, and I forgot that I was online.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I could talk about the background stories. I love hearing people's background stories to how they came to where they are and things like that.
Yeah, I do too.
But my question was mostly for Josie. I've been struggling a little bit since last year on a political level. I spent a lot of 2024 trying to convince people of basically what we're experiencing now was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very supportive and involved with Democratic support. I've never been a Democrat myself,
Mhm.
just always
Mhm.
considered myself independent. And now I'm just kind of wondering, it seems like all the people that I tried to get out and get the vote out, get involved and do things like that, uh, they all went third party or non-participant or
Mhm.
Cornell West or
Yeah,
Green Party or whatever.
or not
I
voting at
tried
all.
to reason with it. And
Yep.
yeah, and also I feel a lot of the frustration with the Democrat side of things because I've always been a progressive myself.
Mhm.
Um, and I just wonder what the right path forward is like on a personal level. Like I supported Democrats for so long as an independent progressive, and here we are now, and I just don't know, and
Yeah.
I don't I'm speechless about what's happening with us in the trans community. And the non-binary community and the queer community and
Yeah.
it's just
Uh,
so frustrating.
it really is. And I will say this because it helps me sleep at night is we did everything we could. We did our best. We tried to get as many people to vote. We, and you talked to people and you tried to speak your truth. And for me, I'm like, that helps me sleep at night, especially since I was on the line here countless times saying, freaking vote and arguing with people telling them to vote, like, and I remember that time very vividly. And it is incredibly frustrating that we ended up with the result that we did, and it is okay to feel discouraged, disheartened, and down about it. It is completely natural, normal, and yeah, it's scary and it sucks and it hurts a lot of people, and we're going to lose people in the community for it, and it's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. And so first I just want to acknowledge all of that. Now
Now
going
that's
into
what.
Mhm.
Oh,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
please. No,
Sorry.
no, I please. What were you gonna
Oh,
say?
I was just going to say I think that's what hurts the most to me is that the that I didn't influence the people closest to me that are you know
Oh yeah,
in the community.
those
That
are the
I
hardest
couldn't
ones
I
to
couldn't get the
influence.
I couldn't get the
Nope.
poets, the trans, the the goths, the punks. I
Yeah,
couldn't get them to see the logic in my argument, let alone like
yeah.
what am I the one who's wrong? I don't
No,
know.
you're not. And this is what my experience in training has taught me. I convinced more strangers that weren't connected to me in other states, thousands of miles away, to vote than I did my closest friends and my closest family members. And that's just how it goes. And it's really, really upsetting and frustrating that that is the case. But that is the nature of politics. And some people are just very entrenched. And that's why, going back to your question about how Democrats could support progressive and trans policies is that we have to be very, very strategic on who we're talking to and finding those fence sitters and swinging them to the direction that they can get them to, and also motivating other people who don't vote to be able to do that. Now, this is the reality, and I'll tell you this right now. I've learned a lot from this campaign, and I learned a lot from everything that has happened. Dorothy, it is not your fault that there was no Democrat going out there trying to actually rally the side that should have been rallied. There should have been Harris campaign ads saying, I stand with trans people. I don't give a fuck what the other people say, right? There should have been that, but they didn't. They were cowards. And the cowards, it's hard to defend a coward when you're saying, no, vote for this person, when that person's being an absolute coward and not standing up for your community, right? And it's frustrating because we're trying to lift something that is unliftable because the people we're trying to promote aren't willing to do the low lift of saying, yeah, I support equality and human rights for everybody. And if the person that you're trying to get people to vote for can't even say that, it's really hard to make that argument. I know, because I tried to do it all the time. It's like, yes, I know that she hasn't said the right thing, but I promise, I know behind closed doors that we're going to have a lot of influence and a lot of power in those rooms. But it's a really hard argument to make because it's kind of like, trust me, bro. Like, trust me. I know the inside, and I do know the inside, and I will stand by that. And I know that we'd be in a better place if Harris was elected. I know that's the truth. But the fact of the matter is, Harris was not helping me in that argument. She was standing on the sidelines, expecting trans people in the queer community to do that argument for her, expecting that we were all going to go and say, oh, yes, let me go ahead and support this person that is afraid to say trans. Well, this is where I was about to say. It's not always going to be the case, because the way that we can get these people, these Democrats that are afraid to say trans, to say it, is to be in the room with them and hold them accountable. That means getting elected. That means getting positions of power. That means having the closed door meetings with them. Look, and this is pretty known, so I'm not spreading anything that isn't known. So I had a meeting with the governor as a commissioner. And in that meeting with the governor, one of the critiques that we had for him was, and this is Governor Westmore, one of the critiques that we had for him was that when he was asked a question directly about trans service members, he did not repeat the question back and say, well, trans service members deserve rights and equality. He said, these people, right? And these people does. And look, I looked him in the eyes when he said, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize that I said that. I was just so pissed that I was getting asked this question because it's obvious we need to support our trans service members. And it was the people in that room that was with him that said, hey, buddy, hey, governor, like, what the hell? Do you want to be like Gavin Newsom? Because it sounds like you're trying to be like Gavin Newsom. And he was like, oh, fuck, I don't want to be Gavin Newsom. Don't even put me next to that man, because he's been critical of him, right? But it's because trans people were in the room with him. He was able to say, whoa, I can't do that again. I got to make sure that I say the right words next time. And being able to hold him accountable and say, hey, look, the budget's a moral document. When you say I'm not putting trans gender affirming care protections in that budget, I'm saying a statement to the trans community that I don't care, right? Having those conversations with those politicians is incredibly important, but we got to be in the room to do it. I had to become a commissioner. I had to then become the policy committee chair of that commission. I know trans people like Zoe Zephyr who are killing bills in the dark because the Republicans are too afraid to pass them, because they have to look at her in the whites of her eyes and say, hey, your existence doesn't matter as my colleague. Same thing with Sarah McBride, same thing with Danica Rome, same thing with Breonna Titone, same thing with Olivia Hill. And I can just go down the list of all these trans people who are in these legislatures. And what you can see, it's scientific at this point, that when there's a trans person in the legislature, there are less trans bills that get even introduced, right? Not only do we kill more of them, we don't even have them introduced because they are afraid to pass a bill against their colleagues in the legislatures. And so the answer to the question is not easy, but simple. The answer is to get more trans people in the room, in the positions of power, to be able to make the arguments to the policy and power holders as a power holder, to be able to then convince the party and the party leaders to say, you know what? I have to support trans people. Why? Because the trans person's right next to me and they're going to yell at me if I don't. Okay. And it is like that. That's how petty politics is. Politics is high school. People sit at tables, they have cliques, they have to understand that if they go against their colleagues, that they're going to hear about it, and it's all those gossipy things. And that is one way that we can do it. Go ahead, Arden. It looks like you want to say something.
I want to offer a slightly different perspective on why I think the trans person in the room might be influential to them. And that is because Democrats notoriously have this thing where they want the vote of trans people. They want the image of knowing we're going to be the LGBTQ pro party, but they also don't want to have to defend the positions that they don't know how to defend. And so I think they often want to like have their cake and eat it too, right? They want to be able to have the support of trans people, but not have to say anything about it. And that's where I think it's maybe not so much like the trans person's going to yell at me. It's, oh shit, somebody who's actually evaluating my principles is standing next to me, and I can't get away with this game with them sitting there. They're going to expose the game if I fuck up. So it forces them to hold more strongly to those principles. And I mean, I think like pretty much all of the actually like media friend, like successful Democrats, with the exception of Gavin Newsom. But I mean, honestly, he's been tanking, so I don't know if I would call him that anymore. I think he was probably like a year ago, but like again, like Jasmine Crockett and AOC have been super pro-trans, and it's gone well for them. I mean, Governor Pritzker has been such a solid ally, and even governors in some states where it's a little wishy-washy have been. Yeah, Maine. I think Governor Whitmer came out. Is she Wisconsin or one of those states up there? Michigan. She came out in defense of trans people on trans day visibility. And we've got those new upcoming politicians. Like last week, we talked about Kat Abu-Ghazala, who's running in Illinois for a Senate seat. And she's been super outwardly, vocally pro-trans, and it's gotten her fired up on social media. She's been going super viral. So I do think that like actually holding them to their principles seems to be more successful, because again, they look back on Harris's campaign. All she tried to do the whole time was be diet Republican. She realized that MAGA was
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, like she realized MAGA was ostracizing these Republicans and thought, oh, I can get those people in. But the fact is, diet Republicans would rather have an extremist than a Democrat, because that's their party. Like, appealing to the other party is not going to work for you. It just makes you look like a member of the other party. And so I do think when they hold strong to their principles, it goes so much better for them and for us. But I love that. Like, what Josie's doing, I think, is honestly the solution, which is get trans people elected. Let's see trans people holding offices at all levels throughout the country. I think that's going to be massively influential.
Yeah. And we've seen it through history.
That feedback.
Yeah. We've seen it through history.
Go ahead.
As soon as we started having Black people in office, civil rights started to actually start moving forward. As soon as we had women in office, we started to have actual, like, the ability to open credit cards. As soon as we have, the queer, like, movement such as Harvey Milk, he was able to say, hey, to all of the queer people in the area, everybody needs to come out. Right? Because he knew that there was a ton of closeted gay people in office, and he was the brave one that said, I'm going to come out, and all of you need to come out at the same time so we can do this together. It was that type of courage that allows us to be able to move the ball forward, because visibility has always been our theory of change. Anyways, go ahead, Dorkley. I interrupted you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just going to say that this is the kind of advice I was looking for. Or not necessarily advice, but perspectives that I was looking for, because I've been walking that line between do I lean in and become a progressive Democrat, or do I lean out and go back to intellectual obscurity on the fringe? And I,
Oh my bad.
it's nice to hear people who are involved in doing the work give me perspective on.
Yeah. If I can, I know Josie's going to have a lot to say. I just want one thing to add on to that. And it's, in reflecting on kind of the, where this call started about, feeling frustrated with the Democrats and stuff, I want to say that in spite of, like, there's a chance in 2028 that, like, Gavin Newsom becomes the Democratic nominee for president, right? And he might still have his positions he has today on trans people then. Let's imagine that's happening. I am still going to unequivocally advocate for the politician who has the best chance of winning that will make a better world. And it doesn't have to mean the best world. I'm not saying the best world or the world that I want to live in. And it's not me in saying I'm going to endorse every policy this person puts through. This is, like we were saying throughout the election, this is a game of chess, right? There are objectively superior moves in a game of chess based on your position. Yeah. And so it's like, I imagine it's not unlikely and potentially even likely to say that Gavin Newsom will be a transphobic Democratic nominee for president, and I will probably be full-throatedly endorsing him if that happens, because what's the alternative? Like, they're creeping ever closer to a manifestation of the Handmaid's Tale, and frankly, that is significantly worse, and we at least have ground to work with Gavin.
I was screaming Gilead all last year.
Yeah,
it's true. And Dorkley, and just to answer your question more succinctly, because I think we do kind of get lost in the presidential cycle of it all. Even Arden falls victim to it, as she was talking about Gavin Newsom. We still have a midterm before that.
Oh yeah.
And so
right.
So in reality, I have a simpler answer for what you were saying about progressive Democrat, intellectual, blah blah blah. The simpler question is, pay attention to your local politics, the people who are running in your local area, and push for those folks, because you have a better chance of influencing those politics than you ever can within national politics. Hell, I was part of a working group that made over 2 million phone calls and knocked 250,000 doors, and I still didn't have the power to change the influence of the presidential race, right? So when you take a look at the local politics, these races sometimes come down to a couple dozen, if not single tens of votes. And so when you are looking at those politics in the primaries and then going into the future midterms, or maybe I don't think Indiana has 2025 elections. I don't think they do. But the reality is, when you're able to focus on those local politics and actually say, you know what, I support this candidate. Let's say they're trans, let's say they're queer, let's say whatever they are, but they're in the right position that you want them to be. If you're able to knock doors for that candidate, you actually have chances of actually swinging that race. Like really, like I've seen it happen. I've seen races won that close, right? I actually did a recount election one time, and I was not a recount, but I was part of a recounting effort, and the race was determined by one vote, literally one vote. Like that's all it was. And there was like, I think 20,000 votes in that race, and it came down to one vote. And it was wild. So that means that one person probably called in sick on a day that said they were going to volunteer and lost that race. Like that's what I think about. It's like, wow, one volunteer decided to not go to that shift, and that cost that candidate that election. And so that's how close these local races are. And then once you're able to support that candidate, I think it will better inform how you want to approach politics on the grander scale, because you'll have better understanding of moving those votes, one or two people, as you go door to door, as you knock a packet with like 40 doors. And then you'll talk to your neighbors, and you're not talking to friends that are just entrenched in their values, that you don't have to be frustrated and yell at a wall. You can actually talk to a voter that's undecided and be like, hey, have you thought about this candidate? Oh no, I didn't know that they believed in, smaller class sizes. And there's like, oh gosh, so smaller class sizes is great. Okay, great. I'm going to vote for this person. Boom, you just changed somebody's mind. You could have won that election that way. And so that's the way that I would look at it, more than the ideological bent of how you want to do it. Now, if you want to stay a Democrat, it helps bolster the Democratic Party numbers. But right now, it doesn't really matter, because people are just fed up and angry, and that's kind of the way that I look at it in a very micro level, because that's the only way we're going to be able to make a difference, is if we all worked on our local level.
Yeah, even here in Indiana, we had a huge turnout against Spark.
Against what?
Whatever her name. Victoria Sparks is doing town halls, and we had massive turnouts for the town halls, and they were not pretty.
Yeah, see, and there you go. Find out who's the best candidate running against her and support that candidate. Right? Like that's the way you should go.
Yeah, I mean, and only thing I want to add more, and then we'll probably have to move on darkly, is like, Josie's also talking about races where there is opposition, but when I filled out my ballot this election for all those local elections, there was like easily a quarter of them or more uncontested, one person running. So you have to also remember of like, this is why, again, I think the work Josie is doing is great, is actually getting some people on those ballots, because how many races are going uncontested with a conservative person who's advocating for harsh, regressive policies? We can even just get someone on the ballot that is progress towards, fixing things. So I think, yeah, for sure. I mean, I was talking about the presidential election, but absolutely those local elections, those midterm elections are so important, and potentially more important in a lot of ways. So thank you, Darkly. Do you want to give some last thoughts before we move on?
May I just throw something into the conversation from earlier? I just wanted to say, just for your listeners out there, just on a different, more lighthearted topic. I was homeschooled evangelical. I played with boys' toys, but my parents bought me girls' toys to play with my younger sister, and boys' toys to play with my older brothers. They didn't let me do gymnastics, but they also didn't let me join the Air Force. So it was kind of like I was hanging out with queer people before I ever considered any part of myself queer. I just kind of walked into it. So I don't know what everyone's individual experience is out there, but that's just a different perspective to
totally
contribute to the group dialogue.
I love when that happens. I've had that happen with so many friends where we're like, when we were all thinking we were straight cisgender, and then like as adults we're like, oh my god, you're queer and trans too. We all found each other. Thank you, Darkly, for calling. We appreciate your call, and we'll talk to you next time, okay?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye. Thanks.
I feel like Pip. Oh, yeah. Yep. I do feel like the delay was worse on that call. Sometimes the delay is worse with other different callers. It's so strange. I see Matt is saying that apparently a helicopter crashed in the Hudson. Wild what happens when you fire the air traffic control people en masse, and wow, we went how many years without anything like that happening before this happened, and then we get rid of all those people and it starts happening all the fucking time. It's hard not to be like, I mean, it's like you're hearing about these closed door meetings where even Rubio is pushing back on, Musk and Trump for doing things like this, saying like, I've got planes falling out of the sky and you're wanting me to fire more people. Like, how am I supposed to do that? It's so, it's really embarrassing. But this is the leadership we have. Just completely feckless and incompetent and just worth nothing.
Yeah, and it's like the helicopters are. I would not want to get in a helicopter unless it's a military pilot flying that helicopter. I'm kind of biased about this. Helicopters are not really meant to fly. They're literally just like flying stones, and they want to fall to the ground at all times. So apparently, this helicopter was doing a Hudson River tour. So it was just like tourists, unfortunately, and yeah, it's pretty tragic. It's pretty tragic. It's like,
well, I could linger and talk on that forever. I just saw chats that maybe want to jump in more on that, but we have one caller left, so let's get this call out of the way. We're going to talk to out of the way is so dismissive. That's not what we're doing. We're going to talk to Evelyn. Pronouns are she and they from Greece. Wants to talk about how to properly talk to biological essentialists and transphobes to convince them or at least make them understand our position. So, question of the century. Evelyn, you are here on Transatlantic with Arden and Josie. Tell us what's going on.
Hi, can you hear me properly?
Yep.
yes.
All right, that's good. So I'm talking specifically about the validity of trans people's identities. And so, for example, many times when you engage with a transphobe, and especially online, they tend to be very arrogant about their beliefs and also bad faith. Excuse me. To people who don't believe in their position. And so I'm asking, how should I engage to people like that, to at least make them like lesser their guard, make them less arrogant? Like, do I try to explain to them like maybe the semantic misinterpretation they might have, or like the difference between gender and sex, or other things? I'm thinking about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways you can come at it. Sorry, something in chat made me laugh. I apologize, Evelyn. I looked at chat and they distracted me. Sorry, they do that to me sometimes. Go ahead. Were you saying something, Arden?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that you've touched on something incredibly difficult, Evelyn, which is that like something like TACIS is really useful for this because we are wrestling with those people and with those questions, but we're not having to, like, when I talk to someone like that on this show, I don't have to convince the caller. I want to convince somebody watching who agrees with the caller. But when you're having a one-on-one conversation like that, you really have to be careful about what your expectations are because it's extremely unlikely. There's actually a lot of evidence to suggest that when people profess a belief in a conversation like that, that they, Josie, do you want me to do a one-up of myself for a minute? Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. There's a lot of reason to believe that when people profess a belief in a conversation like that, that it actually entrenches them further into the belief, and that no matter how much evidence you could provide or how perfectly airtight your logical arguments are, it won't crack their protective shell because humans have a defense mechanism around like being wrong and the shame that comes with being wrong and misinformed. And so I do think what my first thing I would recommend to you is to adjust your expectations and to come at these conversations thinking that this is going to be like, it's difficult because I also don't really love the morality of treating somebody like a project. But I do think that is kind of the approach you have to take if you want to convince an individual. You have to seed the conversation slowly over a lot of conversations and work towards that. A good recommendation, if you don't know already, would be Street Epistemology from Anthony Magnabosco on YouTube. It's not perfect, but it is a method of getting people to evaluate how confident they are in the truth of their propositions, and then getting them to express why they're so confident or not confident. And it's a good way to get people to kind of trick themselves into arguing out of their own position. And that's kind of why you do it. But I'm hesitant to tell you, like, here's an argument to bring to biological essentialists or like a phrasing that's particularly effective, because in my experience, those aren't the things that tend to make an impact. It is this broader scale project that you're investing in when you're talking to someone like this. So yeah, that's kind of my first thoughts. How does that land with you?
I think that makes sense to me. Like, I've been thinking if I should put more emphasis into basic empathy and respect for us, for us trans people, like instead of trying to formalize like what we're trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's also hard because you can't really like formalize an argument in a lot of senses because you're also in many cases speaking for yourself, right? Like the trans experience is a subjective one in a lot of ways, and so it's really hard to like have this argument that is like, now granted, the objections, there's so many ways you could address it. The objections that a lot of them have to like the subjectivity are things where you can point out, oh well, this applies to so many other situations that you don't care about. Josie is having a breakdown over here. She's laughing so hard.
I'm so sorry. This conversation is so great too, and I just can't stop. I don't know what happens. It's the same crap that happened with you the other day, where
I know
just
that
like once you start laughing, you can't stop.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
you're
the
on camera.
giggles,
I get it.
and it's like the worst. It's like the worst. Anyways, that talking it out helped me. I apologize, Evelyn, for being laughy on the giggly on the other side here. Like, go ahead.
I will say, like, I mean, we try to do a lot of that here. Like, one thing I have found is personally, I don't actually like arguing the biology with biological essentialists because they're so entrenched in that belief often that you can point to, you know, the ways how sex is not a single thing, but a collection of traits. And most of them, with the exception of chromosomes, are subject to change. And so like you can point to all these things, but often they're going to fall back on some sort of, you know, everlasting thought stopper, some phrase that's going to terminate the conversation and cease productivity. And so what I have personally found is that I think arguing from bodily autonomy is a bit of a stronger position because I'm going to one up myself because now Josie's distracting me. Because in my view, it's a lot harder for somebody to say, I object to your right to express yourself in the way that you see fit than it is for them to say, well, I don't understand the science, or, you know, all of these academic institutions are ideologically captured, or whatever one of the many thought stoppers that they have are. So, yeah, I think trying to appeal to some more broad, like, philosophical positions, I think are what, in my experience, is more of an like, it gets you more of a foot in the door with those kinds of people to have this conversation about, like, let's throw biology out the window. Let's throw all the social stuff out the window, right? The social implications. Let's talk about, do you agree that fundamentally, regardless of whether or not someone's really trans or any of that stuff, that people should have the right to express themselves in the way that they see fit? That even if someone is really a man when they're assigned male through their whole life, if they want to have long hair and present themselves as a woman, assuming they're not hurting anyone, there should be nothing wrong with that. That's where it's a lot easier to make a common ground. And I think once you have that kind of related foundation, it's a little bit easier to start hacking away at everything else. But again, there's no one solution that's going to be effective for any of these people. You have to have a relationship with these people. Like, it has to be a broader thing. It can't be a just, unfortunately, although I like to be convinced by arguments and evidence, most people don't respond to that. It's just a fact. And so, unfortunately, I don't think that approach is always going to be the most effective.
Okay. Yes. And I think what Arden was saying was completely, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm like losing my mind. Anyways, I think I've been working too hard. Anyway, so Evelyn, I think what Arden was saying, essentially, in the way I approach these conversations is about the separation between gender and sex. And sometimes you have to start even more fundamentally. And if you are talking about gender and sex, and if they're saying that sex is the same as gender, it has to come back to, well, do you believe that people deserve fundamental rights? And once you're talking about, do people deserve fundamental rights no matter how they show up, it allows you to kind of do that investigation. So exactly like Arden said, so if somebody says, no, a trans person doesn't deserve fundamental rights, don't start laughing, Arden. Don't do it. If a trans person actually doesn't deserve fundamental rights, you ask them why. Does that make sense? Does that help? I know I'm being awful and I can't stop laughing for some reason, but I'm trying to be very serious. Um, so Evelyn, does that make sense what we're saying? Or can you give me an example of a time that you've had in a conversation with a biological essentialist that particularly made you frustrated or where things kind of like went off the rails?
That's a good question about something specific because I feel like a lot of the times it's like they presume that what you're talking about is what they believe, like that the words that you use is the way that they use them as well. So when you
Yes.
say that a trans woman is a woman, they think something completely biologically reductive instead of something else.
Exactly.
And
yes, exactly. And that's why you have to go with the inquisitive approach where you're asking them the different questions about different things that are happening. I'm not even looking at the chat. I don't even know what's wrong with me. But like you ask them those questions. It's kind of like have you ever listened to this show with on the line? Are there things where we question people about their beliefs on why they believe in a god? Right. And things like that, where a lot of the conversation kind of goes down that road in a way that is very similar to like, no, it is this way because I believe this. So therefore it's almost impossible to change their mind on these things. And
Yeah.
so does that make sense?
I think so. So you're saying that it's to get to a point where they admit that there's a belief that they hold that's so fundamental that it will be kind of, it would change their worldview in a sense. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So if somebody says, I do not believe there's a difference between sex and gender, you can ask them why. Right. And if they say, well, because the Bible told me so, or because you can't change your sex or whatever, like really start investigating why. Because the more you're asking, like, well, why do you see it that way? Well, I think the Bible says this. Well, okay, but what if that isn't the case? What other things do you believe that doesn't rely on the Bible? And then kind of go down that road. And I think that helps a lot when you
Yeah.
start investigating what people's beliefs are. It's the epistemological approach on why people believe the way they believe. And that essentially is a way to get to the bedrock of where somebody is. Because after a few times you ask those questions, you're going to know pretty quickly if the person is movable or not.
Also, the street epistemology thing that I recommended to you, Evelyn, one tactic that is common in there is like, once you get to that bedrock principle, it's like, let's say you get them to confess that they don't think you can change your sex or something, right? A question that like the street epistemologist would then ask is, on a scale of 1 to 100, like, how confident would you say you are in that belief that you can't change your sex? And if they say 100%, it's not worth having the conversation, because anyone who thinks you can be absolutely certain about anything is not honest or is very misinformed about logic and reasoning, and you're not going to be able to reach them with a reasonable conversation. But if they come back at you with like, I don't know, like 85%, you can say, cool, that's great. Can you tell me what makes you so confident? Right? That's how you start diving into the whys, and you can start unpacking their reasoning. And if you can, then let's say they say something to the effect of like, well, there are only 2 reproductive cells in the humans, the ovum and the testes, or and the sperm or whatever, right? The small mobile gamete and the large immobile gamete. Well, then we can say, well, but there are examples of things like the ovotestes, or there are examples of where like, or people who, don't produce gametes at all. So clearly, while I would agree that most people do have one of 2 gametes, clearly not universal, right? So that can't be the necessary and sufficient condition to prove your point, because that doesn't apply universally, right? It's not necessary for all people. And then they might say, okay, well, yeah, I guess maybe I'm like more like 70% confident, right? And then you can explore the next reason. What's the next reason? And that's kind of how you start chipping away at that. But I do want to advise you, like, don't get your hopes up that this is how that's going to go most times, because unfortunately, with these very, like, emotionally and politically charged, like, it's not even just politically charged. Being a biological essentialist, being anti-trans is almost an identity position nowadays. And those kinds of things are really hard to shake people on. And so, yeah, I advise you to take a lot of internal stock of what your reasoning is for engaging with this individual or whoever you're talking to, and to ask, like, what your goals are. Like, is your goal to convince them, or is your goal to, like, genuinely try to ascertain how confident they are in this transphobic belief? Because I think the latter you might get some progress on, but if your goal is to convince them, to move them off that position, I think, unfortunately, that's just often not effective. And that's why we've been moving so much here on TACIS to these more rhetorical approaches, away from the evidence-based approaches. Because, listen, I've been doing this show for 4 years. I've been dishing out paper after paper for years. And you know what people say to me? They say, those institutions are ideologically captured. You can't trust any of that data. They say, what else do they say? That just a number of other things where they just outright dismiss empirical evidence, or, like, obviously, like, this logical syllogism necessarily, if these premises are true, necessarily leads to this conclusion. And they'll say, well, no, it doesn't, because I don't want it to. You know, it's like a very, they're not receiving it in a logical manner. And so I do think you kind of have to try these emotional rhetorical approaches, or the purely inquisitive, purely street epistemological approach to understanding their beliefs. The goal of changing minds with an individual is an incredibly difficult one. And I very much hesitate to advise anyone on how to navigate a situation to change people's mind, because that's not really the way it goes.
Does that make sense, Evelyn?
Yeah, I think I understand that. And so, to me, it's not just about convincing them that there's something wrong with their beliefs, but it's also like making them be less arrogant and less confident about what they're saying. And from what I understand, it's really situational on how you're going to convince someone. Like, it really depends on the person and how you know someone.
It does.
Yeah. I will say also, like, trying to get someone to be less arrogant is also kind of a mistaken agenda. Like, arrogance is almost, by definition, like a inflated sense of your confidence, or an inflated sense of your ego. Like, definitionally, by being an arrogant person, you are sort of, like, irrationally confident in your beliefs and the things you're advocating for, right? So, like, having this goal of, I want you to be less arrogant. Well, I agree with you, Evelyn. I would love it if these biological essentialists could pull their head out of their own ass for 5 seconds to digest some real information. That's just not, like, when somebody gets to the stage of being arrogant, they're already past the point where logical argumentation and reasoning is going to reach them most times. Now, granted, you can never know. There are always those edge cases, but I will say the majority of the time, it doesn't really work that way. And I think that's evidenced here on this channel. Like, how many people do we talk to on the line a week? Like, probably not quite 100, but a lot, probably more than 50 in a week, right? And we do every single week. We're like this. We're talking to hundreds and hundreds of people every year. And almost never does someone on the other end of the line, the caller, they almost never change their mind. But you know who changes their mind a lot? The people watching, the people listening. Yep. We get emails and comments all the time from the people who change their mind watching and listening. So it is really difficult to influence someone in a single conversation like this. And that's part of why, like, debates became so popular, because, right, we're not trying to influence the competition. You're trying to influence the audience who's watching. And that is kind of the goal of this sort of practice. So, yeah, I think when you're dealing with personal relationships, it's really a mistake to have this goal of changing their mind or making them less arrogant. I think that is not a fruitful endeavor, which is why I'm not a good person to ask about that, because you know how I respond to arrogant people? Fuck you. I don't need you in my life. If you're going to be an arrogant, like, self-absorbed prick, like, genuinely go kick rocks. I don't care what you do with your life. I've done that to so many people who were like family or something, but who came at me with transphobic and arrogant positions. And I was like, cool, bye. Don't need you. But not everyone's like that. I do think it's a mistake to think that you're going to just change one of these people's minds. It's not really how these conversations work. So,
yeah, I also want to say de-radicalization is something that you possibly could do. So somebody may be arrogant about something and they may have a strict belief about something, but you can de-radicalize them to make them not an activist of said thing. So like being able to shake them on the idea of like, well, I mean, science, if they're trying to have a scientific argument or whatever they're trying to do, and it's like, well, it seems like you're not 100% sure, so why should you be making decisions on these things, for example, is something that can maybe make somebody be a little bit more like, oh, well, maybe you're right. Like, it's like, maybe we shouldn't have a blanket ban on all trans sports, because a lot of times those blanket bans deal with the fact that kids just want to play soccer with their friends, and that is who it affects more than the top elite athletes that exist in the world. So like those type of de-radicalization statements actually can make things better, where they don't make it their only prerogative to be like, I'm going to be a transphobe forever and I'm going to always vote against trans people, for example. Like, it is much easier, in my opinion, to de-radicalize someone, to make them say, why do you care so much about this issue? Like, it's like those type of things maybe make people like wonder, it's like, yeah, why am I so focused on this when my kid can't even go to school right now because the school's class is too big or whatever, right? Like that's the stuff that I like to try to do to people sometimes, is like divert them from the point to de-radicalize somebody.
well, yeah, do you have any last thoughts on that, Evelyn? And then we're going to move on to our super chats.
I wouldn't say so. So you can continue without me. That's fine.
Oh, well, thank you, Evelyn. And I apologize about my giggle attack that I had earlier. Sometimes it just happens. And then like, because you're on screen, you're like, people just start looking. It's like people start to feel a lot, feed off that energy. So it's like,
yeah. And our chat instigates it.
Yeah, it's nothing that you said that made me laugh, by the way. It was the chat being the chat.
Watch this back though, Evelyn, and then kind of like maybe like work through like how, just think about the conversations you've been having and think about how maybe the advice we have does or doesn't apply, and try to see how that informs you. So, but thank you for calling. I appreciate the conversation.
And we've also had good shows. We've also had really good episodes that are like, you can watch and you can see, that are just clipped, of us actually having conversations with people who are just ideological immovable, like the conversations with Matthew. We have way too many of those conversations. But that person in particular, I had a lot of conversations about how to talk about like the difference between sex and gender and all of that type of stuff. I think that may be informative to kind of like see it in action, and see what we do in that way as well. And you don't have to be an expert in this, right? This is all Arden and I do all the time, is just like communicate with people who do not see eye to eye with us ideologically. And yeah, so that's what we're trained to do. So yeah. So thank you, Evelyn.
Also, it's okay about your laugh.
No, go ahead.
I didn't even notice because I'm just listening. I'm not watching the show, so that I can I can actually talk to you and listen. Yeah. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Evelyn. You have a lovely rest of your day or night, I guess, in Grace. I don't know what time. It's probably closer to midnight there.
It's midnight. Yeah.
It's midnight. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Well,
thank you so much for calling.
On hold for so long. Thank you.
Thanks for being our last caller, Evelyn. All right. Let me close out the lines. It's also funny. I saw someone being like, sorry, Josie was being so rude. And that made me laugh just barely. I was like, yeah, Josie, you're being so terrible. You're the worst.
I was being terrible. I am being the worst.
It happens. Like, wait. Were you watching geckos having sex? Is that what caused this, Josie?
Confirm or deny.
I can't believe it.
I can't.
I do have to run to the
know I
bathroom. I'm
wasn't.
going to pee my pants before we do this super chat. So you
Okay.
you have the one up for a hot minute.
Okay, all right. You know how many times I was pinching my legs, chat, to like stop laughing? I was like trying to like replace the giggles with sheer pain. So just to let you know, I probably have bruises on my legs right now. Oh man. So I had to like put you, chat, behind a window on the side, and try not to look at you because you were making it worse. But it's okay. I forgive you. Yeah, the chat leans. Yeah, I can't help it. Our community's funny. Our community is funny, and you have every right to make me laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. So remember to reward Team Josie, because I'm just trying to bring joy into the world. Okay, just trying to bring joy. So no, I'm not even high. Like that's the thing. Yes, if you have not hit the like and subscribe button, then you're doing this wrong. So make sure you do that right now. Yeah, and and to give you a little bit of a teaser, chat, give you a little teaser here. I have a big announcement that I'm going to be making to you guys sometime soon. Oh man, I'm not even going to spoil it. It's going to be a big announcement sometime. I'm just saying. Look, it made Arden dance. See, Arden knows the tea. But the surprise is coming, so make sure you keep tuning in to TACIS, especially when I'm on, because I will share it. Arden, you're on mute still.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, hell yeah, I'm so excited. Okay, we got some super chats to get to. So any super chat of $5 or more, we're going to read out live here. And if you have hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Josie in your super chat, it'll count as a vote. Has to have a hashtag, no vote. And then the loser, whoever gets the most vote or the least amount of votes, will have to defend whatever position has the most votes in the poll in the chat. So, for example, right now, establish a drag queen monarchy is winning. So if I lose, I would have to spend 2 minutes defending the position that we need to have a drag queen monarchy in the US.
Which you will lose. So I'm glad that you're preparing yourself mentally for this.
Josie really wants
Team
to fight
Josie
today.
is too strong.
We're really going to throw down.
I have no control of this. It's just Team Josie is too strong.
Oops. I accidentally... There we go. Changed things. Okay, let me get the scoreboard up there. First super chat is 10 pounds from Herbie Shine, an early placed super chat. Someone on a lot of YouTube comments is claiming the line host delete comments about trans black. This sounds unlikely. They say Matt and Forrest don't discuss trans black. Troll. No, this is happening. I've seen this person in chat. They come around to say trans black is real, and then they get muted whenever it's a conversation about trans rights, because they're trying to do the Rachel Dolezal argument, which we've addressed so many times. We don't have the time to get into it right now. But they're basically, they're basically making a Rachel Dolezal argument, which is just so bad.
It's like, that's so petty and childish and dumb, and just, like so many levels.
Like the basic response that I'm thinking of is that, like, just because two things are social constructs does not mean they're the same. Like, our concept of time is a social construct, and money is a social construct, and race is a social construct, and gender is a social construct, and no four of those things are alike. Like, you might be able to find similarities to point to, as you can find similarities between almost any two things. But just because two things are both social constructs doesn't mean they're the same, or should be viewed the same. And there's a number of other responses to give, but if that person wants to call in, we'll talk to them. But again, there's this weird thing where people are like, where's my free speech? I'm in chat and I'm not getting to say whatever I want. Free speech is your right to say things without the government coming after you, without you facing legal or legal penalties. We are not the government. We are a private moderated chat room. So We mute chats that are not productive. If you want to call in, you'll have a way bigger audience, just like fucking Brady, whatever his name was. Don't be a coward who sits in the chat and types and gets muted and says things that they know are going to get muted. Call in to where thousands more people will see and hear what you had to say over the course of a week than will ever see your stupid little chat.
Yeah.
Anyway.
$5 from Jason Jones, hashtag T Arden. I've been sharing the show in local groups to encourage my community in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, to call in and engage with your thoughts. Hashtag Team Arden. Yay! Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Sorry we're not during a time where normal people, like our normal shows are.
You and Lux are so salty. I know. Listen.
I am. This is my work day. I have to take time off to do this show, okay?
Hey,
my
you agreed
time
to be on this show, okay? Listen. No, I do think there's value to moving it to the night thing. We've talked about this a number of times. I don't think there is a massive like algorithmic or like financial benefit to it, but maybe I'm wrong. But I do think it's beneficial to the host, and that does matter. So, I mean, it might get moved, but to be honest, there's a lot of other things that are taking higher priority right now. We'll see. I'm
always going to say it.
I'm going to the American Atheist Convention to give a main stage talk next weekend. And so my brain from after this show until then is make sure the line is set up to go without me for a few days and then to finish writing my talk because I have so much to write. It's silly.
How long is the talk?
Like 30 minutes ish.
Are you doing a keynote? That's a keynote.
Yeah. It's like a main stage talk at the event. Yeah.
Damn, look at you.
Talking about transphobia and the secular movement. Ooh everywhere.
That sounds good.
It's gonna be fun. I'm excited to do it, but I am a little overwhelmed. I've got a lot to get done before then. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Any other issues are on the back burner until I get back from that event. Another 5 from Jason Jones. So far, they just called City Hall and tried to get our first Pride event on June 1st. Pauls Valley, Oklahoma get shut down. Join in on June 1st. Hashtag Team Arden again.
Oh, man.
Hell yeah. I hope if there's anyone else that lives in that area, or anyone, whether you're trans or cis, get motivated. Go also call your city hall, also appeal to your city hall and say, no, this is my free speech right. I think we as Americans should be allowed to celebrate this if this is what we want to do. And it doesn't matter that it bothers someone or it's against their religion. Don't join the parade.
Yeah. You don't have to go to Pride. Just let us have it. £5 from Sean Escherwood. There is a natural K at the most of 1, 2, 3 with infinity many times P, such that the next prime is P plus 2K. No specific K has been proven to work, though. Should try to solve that, Sean.
Sure thing.
That seems like your solvable problem.
I mean, I appreciate how clearly much smarter Sean is than I am, especially at this one specific task, but I can't even read that. $100 from the Bobtail Trucker, hashtag Team the Line. Thank you so much. Genuinely, I appreciate it a lot. It goes so far, and it
really does.
It allows us to do so much more, and there's so many more things we want to do in programming. We're getting back to hopefully doing those Zoom Q&A sessions. At least once a month is our goal soon. And I know you guys are getting like ad-free versions of the podcast over on the Patreon. But we want to do more for you guys. And it's just, again, we're so limited in staff and all of our staff are so overwhelmed that it's difficult to always implement things as quickly as we want to. But I appreciate how much support you guys give us. It genuinely means a lot that you believe in the project. So thank you.
$5 from Dominic Mancini. I want to get started in activism, but keep missing all the big protests. What are some resources to stay up to date on protest events in my area? It depends on what kind of things you want to do. So, like, if you are if you want to deal with, queer and trans activism, contact your local, Pride Center or your local LGBTQ center. There's also you could also like browse and connect with like newsletters of like your local politicians that you like. They probably put things out. There's also local clubs that you may be interested in. So like there's all different types of clubs that exist, either locally, regionally, or ideals based. Maybe there's a progressive group in your area that you can probably sign up to. Go to their websites where they have a calendar of different things and events. So there's a lot of little ways that you could do it in that way. Just depends on what flavor that you want to go. Like the GSA is fairly popular in a lot of areas, so you could have a lot of different like places that you could go to, and they usually have like newsletters, email list, and calendars on their websites that you can find out more about.
I get what you mean though about missing like like the big protests. So often like I'm just so busy and work so much that they totally miss me by. It's unfortunate and annoying, but but I'd love to see them happening, and absolutely happy to make you guys go. $10 from Cassie Wolf. Though TACIS is meant to be trans conducted, would love to see Forrest as a co-host for just a single episode, given his educated defense for us. #Team Arden. P.S. Thanks to all TACIS hosts for self-confidence. While I agree, I would love to hope. I'm sure Forrest and a number of us will do like a Cus I Wanna on the fly to talk about trans stuff. But this show is always going to be trans run and trans led. The only thing we've considered before, and it's been a long time since we talked about it, so I don't even know if Josie or Lux were on the team when this was discussed, but potentially bringing in like parents or spouses of trans people who are particularly vocal activists. Although the one person I was thinking about at the time actually since transitioned, so they are trans now, which is funny. But yeah, I mean, like I could see that being helpful in some sense, but I would rather just do those people on an episode of like Cus I Wanna and keep this show centering trans voices.
Agreed. I love Forrest, but no, and that was a point for you.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah. He's called Ethics. To try it. $4.99.
Read your super chat.
From JW Edgy. Giddy, I'm so also autistic in trans, though not directly correlated. I have noticed much of my masking comes out presenting mask for safety. Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
That. Totally feel that.
Another $4.99 JW Edgy. I noticed when I'm overwhelmed, I mask a lot more, which can code switch me to acting more mask. That then cycles into a perpetual downward spiral. Yeah, I mean, I think, we do the things we need to protect ourselves. That's how people go 30, 50, 70 years without really engaging with how they really feel.
$5 from Mara G. Cis people can feel happy with alternative pronouns and still be cis. It's your journey to unravel, and it's a wonderful journey whether or not trans. Yes, exactly.
Hell yeah. I used to be, at the beginning of TACIS, I used to be against this. So silly.
I used to too.
I
used to too.
I think my reasoning, which I do think it still emotionally grips me a little, but it's not like how I feel doesn't matter to what anyone else should do with their life, right? Like that's like fundamental.
Drag queens do it all the time.
And drag queens do it all the time. My reasoning was something to the effect of like, I don't mind if people use pronouns, but I want them to do it because they sincerely feel like it represents them. Not because like the argument would be that like, oh, maybe cis people should use they, them pronouns to help normalize it. And I was like, oh, I don't know, it feels a little weird, but
that was a little weird.
But fundamentally, I do think that like how I feel about your pronouns doesn't matter. And if you want to use pronouns for whatever reason, I don't really care. That's your right to do what you want.
And I feel that pronouns are linguistic expression, not identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
People aren't their pronouns. So unless the person says they identify as XYZ, that's when they are trans or cis. But like if somebody like a drag queen wants to go by she, her, but lives their lives as a cis man, like that's fine. They're not trans. Like, that's kind of how that goes. So yeah, I had to evolve on that and realize that pronouns are not just another form of self-expression, just linguistically.
Agreed. Oof, hot in here. I need a big
See, the
gay
lizards are
fan. I need a big gay
getting
fan to
to you.
snap out and fan myself with. Oh my god. I think this one's you.
Okay, is it $9.99 from JW Edgy? On a more positive note, I just got my first sports bras. Oh, great. Day one was so nerve-wracking, but goddamn, do I feel euphoric. I only want to go out, I guess, go out in sports bras? Oh, go out
Mhm.
in sports bras and baggy jeans from now on. Hashtag Team Arden.
Oh, I love that for
Yeah.
you. That's really exciting.
Go for it.
We've got 5 pounds from Sean Isherwood. Those questions, wow, okay. Am I cis? Cis men don't spend 9 months as a woman unless they're experimenting, I guess. I don't know. No dysphoria here, though. I mean, but listen, I also think that, like, if what it takes for you to be confident that you're cis is trying out being a woman for 9 months, and then you're like, not for me. I think I figured it out, and I'm genuinely, that wasn't right. Like, I fail to see the problem with that. That sounds like that was an effective way for you to figure it out. Right? Like, you were like, I genuinely tried it on. It didn't work for me. Like, that seems to be a good indicator for, like, the method working. But yeah.
$5 from RG. My best friend enjoys he, him pronouns, has other stereotypical trans aspects for years, still considering himself cis. I support him. Hashtag Arden.
Stereotypical trait. What? Is he a coder and wears knee-high striped socks?
Stereotypical trans aspects.
Watch me be completely fucking right.
Yeah.
Tag me if I am. 5 pounds from Sean Sherwood again. 1/if I get a maths doctorate, at least I won't have to worry about titles. My first name is somewhat gender neutral. My middle name, not at all. Work? I mean, yeah, that's great. Titles are so fucking stupid anyway. It's like gender markers where I'm like, this serves no purpose. We only do this because of tradition. Can we... do educational titles matter? Because it's like, you should have to go through some sort of qualifications to be able to be a medical doctor. But yeah, titles, generally speaking, especially gendered ones, I just find so pointless.
Mm-hmm. $10 from Mila K. Petition to solely refer to TERFs and bioessentialist as adult human MF instead of their name/pronouns, as they believe biology matters more than anything related to their personal identity consistency. Yep.
I like that.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun to push their ideas to like the logical extremes, like the ends that like should naturally derive from that. $4.99 from Louise Richardson. If you decide you are not trans, you can give yourself a cisness present. Nice. I had a hard time figuring where it was going. I got it though.
Yeah. $5 from Robin Webster. God sent Trump because he was out of locusts and frogs. Tax the fucking penguins. Dumbest timeline ever. Thanks, mods and screener. Hashtag Team Arden.
Oh my God.
Where is my hashtag Team Josie?
You're getting dog stomped in the vote. It's beautiful.
It's terrible. It's not beautiful.
it's genuinely like a painting. I'm so thrilled. We've got $4.99 from JW Edgy again. Couldn't D-trans awareness day be flipped to be pro-trans since the majority of D-transitioners are for social reasons? I mean, that's the thing. They're not actually celebrating D-trans people, right? They're celebrating the D-trans micro-influencers who they pay to promote conservative propaganda. Like, that is the reality of this. D-trans people, overwhelmingly, well, you're absolutely right. Like, it's often for social reasons or ostracization. Most of them aren't like, now I want to be a trad woman. I mean, even how many times have we seen the D-trans people who are like still on hormones, or will like these D-trans women who will still be using the men's bathroom and things like this, because in reality, they're like a propaganda puppet. They aren't actually like these like detransitioners who are victimized by the gender industry. Yeah, their story about a detransitioner is absolutely nothing but a big fat wad of propaganda.
Yeah, we should have knee surgery regret awareness day.
For real.
nose job regret awareness day. That fits the Mar-a-Lago face archetype better.
Oh my god, for real.
$5. I know. Riley Gaines and her fucking Mar-a-Lago face. Oh my god. $5 from JJ314, or I'd like to say JJ Pie. Professor Dave has an A+ video advocating for trans rights titled "More Things I Was Supposed to Say" on Piers Morgan. That seems to be changing minds. Interesting.
Yeah, Professor Dave has done a lot of good stuff. He's also had some takes that I wasn't totally like. I couldn't tell you what they were now. I didn't hold on to them because he's generally speaking good enough that I was like, he's on my side. But I remember there've been a few things where I was like, oh, it was kind of like Rationality Rules, who like, I think he does a good job a lot of the time, but every now and then he'll say something about like trans women in sports and testicles, where I'm like, bro, what? I didn't follow that one. But most of the time I like a lot of things he says. It's one of those things. But cool. I'm glad it's changing minds and affecting people positively. I'll take allies wherever we can get them. 888 from Caleb Jonka. Jonky. My cats support trans pride. Josie Arden 2028. And then maybe we can all wake up from this 4-year nightmare. Hell yeah. Kidding me?
Yeah,
Josie and I would make the most firebrand ticket. I'll be your lieutenant, whatever, to whatever.
Let's do it. It would be good. $5 from the Soul Phoenix. The SAVE Act passed the House. Millions of trans women, and other minorities will have difficulty voting. Get a passport if you can. /push senators. Yeah, that really does suck. The House is way more unhinged than the Senate, which is weird because the Senate also has a majority. I don't think, at least maybe this is my hopeful thinking, I don't know if the SAVE Act is going to pass the Senate. It's just so unhinged. And I think that the SAVE Act currently, I need to double check this, has a provision that you have to use your birth certificate for voting, as far as like not bring it, but you have to have
proof of citizenship
matches. Yeah,
right.
Like that. Yeah, and it really could affect people with maiden names. So it also is going to affect trans people, obviously, but like it's going to be an absolute mess, and it is probably the most wide-sweeping voter disenfranchised bill that we've ever seen in American history since poll taxing. It's really bad.
Sorry, I just saw a chat from somebody called Mark, said the disdain you have for detransitioners is palpable. I have disdain for propaganda puppets. I have no disdain for detransitioners. I was a detransitioner. I detransitioned for 5 years before I transitioned again. I know so many detransitioners. I actually went to this queer camp when I was a teenager. My mom just found like this one place where queer teenagers were and was like, go there, that's probably good for you. And it was. I met a lot of cool people, but 2 of the trans people I met there detransitioned, and you know what? Neither of them consider themselves traditional cis women. They are nothing like the fucking bullshit propaganda archetype you people like to prop up. If you want to call in and back up your position, I welcome it. I triple dog dare you to get out from behind your keyboard and call me and make your case.
Let's do it. And it's like, that's the thing, that it's like such a straw man to say, oh, you don't like detransitioners. It's like, no, we like healthcare. If somebody goes through a medical process that they don't want and never or decided to reverse, go for it. That's what we want. We want the ability for people to be able to get the healthcare that they need, regardless of what pathways that they took to get there. So it's like, come on, like we know what it's like to be trans. We know what it's like to be a cis person when it sucks, when we're not cis. So the same would be for a person who's cis that is trans when they don't want to be trans. Mm-hmm. We have sympathy. We are not the same. like as far as how we think of detransitioners. Like, detransitioners are just propaganda artists when they go into these courthouses and try to make these freaking lies that stop other trans people from being able to transition. Like, I have great love and sympathy for people who are genuinely detransitioning because they made the wrong decision.
Yeah. I mean, even Sean, who super chats all the time on this show, is a detransitioner. I know more detransitioners personally than you've probably heard of in the pop media. You have no concept of what they are. I actually know these people and what their lived experiences are like. I was actually thinking about reaching out to a couple of them and maybe doing some like interviews or something for my personal channel. I haven't posted any. I keep thinking and having ideas and then chickening out because
I don't know,
it's stressful.
Like I know a current detransitioner right now. I don't know if they would want to come in and talk about it because I think they're still questioning if they should have detransitioned or not. They're in that part of their life right now. And
we had a caller like that a month ago who was like, it was a pressure from their parents who got them to feel like they should detransition, but they weren't sure if it was the right decision, even though they already started to do it. Like, again, your concept is so warped by propaganda. I actually know detransitioners, real detransitioners in my life. They're nothing like you think. Go for it.
You?
Go for it.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. I mean, outside of the African plains, humans are an invasive species. So I guess time to get some real estate in Tanzania. Hey, yes. Hashtag Team Josie. Thank you for putting me on the board.
There we go. Those the naturalistic thing is always funny. I'm like, you can just make that so silly the further you push it back. You know what I mean? Like,
are people going to start taking down freaking like animals in the savannas with their bare hands? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
$5 from Melatonin Ale. Unshaved legs are natural. I guarantee that if I wore a dress or shorts with hairy legs, I'd get disgusted looks. Hashtag Team Arden. Yeah, actually, Roxanne Feelig, who's been a guest on Skeptalk and Cus I Wanna a number of times. I know she does. She's one of those people that like won't shave her armpits, and I don't know if she shaves her legs. Not my business. But honestly, I think it's cool as fuck. I love to see when women are like, "Why am I doing this?" Like, I don't think it's actually better for my hygiene, and I'm doing it because like society is asking me to. Like, I think that's cool that people are willing to say the expectation that I shave my arms is the problem. I shouldn't do that. But it's saying the choice in general is bad that I don't agree with. People want to be silky smooth, go for it, baby. Become a dolphin. If you want to be natural and hairy, like, cool, do it. It's awesome because that's how humans are.
$10 Canadian from I always screw this up. Quantum Chaos. I almost said Quantos Nachos. I always do that when this is Quantum. You come on. I'm an hour behind the stream, so no idea what he's talking about. But I'm with Monkey at Typewriter. Let's all move to Tanzania. But also, I have to cancel his vote. Hashtag Team Arden. You know what?
Yeah.
Now you are Quantos Nachos, okay?
That is so funny. $4.99 from June Urek. The bull crap of the country is one thing in helping me come out, though. We have to stand together because nearly no one is standing for us. That is so true. I think right now about, okay, there's trans people coming out every day, right? Still, to this day, the courage of trans people like you, June, who are coming out now, massive. I have so much fucking respect for people who are like, you know what? If the ship's going down, I'm done playing this game of not being who I am. I'm ready to be myself. That is seriously so fucking cool. And I respect the hell out of it.
Hashtag Team Josie.
Was that a Team Josie? Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, there was. You're right. I didn't give you that vote. Oop, not 3, 2.
Yeah.
Cheater.
$5. $5 from Dimmick06. The art of compromise. Hold your nose and close your eyes. We want our leaders to save the day, but we don't get a say in what they trade away. Ooh. Very
brought up Hamilton.
Yeah.
It's funny because after you brought up Hamilton, don't miss my shot, but you also had just said like, oh, like patience is key. And I'm like, so what are you? Are you Aaron Burr? Or are you Hamilton? Are you... Are you waiting for it, or are you not throwing away your shot? Come on, Josie.
I could, sometimes I always say this, right? A good politician catches lightning for a living, right? You gotta wait for the lightning bolt to strike, and you have to catch it and be in the right place and prepared when it hits.
That's Team Burr. She's on.
No,
wait for it.
That is not Team
See
Burr.
which way the wind will blow.
No! Don't you dare!
No, I'm just kidding. The catching lightning is accurate. What Aaron Burr is talking about is like more of like what the MAGA people do, where they're like, oh, I'm supposed to hate Canada now. Oh, losing all my money is good now. They're just like going with like, the flows of society.
Yeah.
$10 from Jamnico6. We dream of a brain. We dream of a brain. Fucking shit. Let's reverse. Let's try that again. $10 from Jamnico6. We dream of a brand new start, but we dream in the dark for the most part. Dark as the tomb where it happens. I've got to be in the room. I've got to be. I gotta be.
Happens. I'm in the room where it happens all the time. It's a good place. $10 Canadian from Jessica Gallagher. Hey ladies, I love your show and all the interesting conversations. I wish I had a big piece of land so I can invite you all to live up here away from the Orange Menace. Stay awesome. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. And why
you're gay, homie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. Guilty.
I'm going to let this one skip the line because it's so relevant. But we mentioned that Sean's a detransitioner, and £5 from Sean Isherwood. Like Arden said, I'm a detransitioner and I thoroughly support the ability to transition, and my own experience was very positive. It just wasn't for me. So, Mark, bring it. Call me.
Yeah.
But miss me with your fucking straw man, fake ass, made up shit that you think I feel about detransitioners.
And we love Sean.
I love Sean. Sean's great. Sean is one of the few people amongst like Jackie Greenland and a few others who have been here like from the start of TACIS, like the entire time.
The OGs. $5 from Jim Nick. Hamilton the musical. # Team Josie. Let's go.
Nice. All right. On the page here on these supers. $10 from Uncomfy. I am so grateful for the line and all the people who take the time out of their lives to run it. Y'all are absolutely wonderful people doing amazing work here. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Go fuck yourself.
$5 from Cassie Wolf. Trump claims it takes 15 minutes to wet his toupee in the shower due to water pressure being reduced from flushing the toilet. Check your pipes. # Team Josie. Yes. It's too much confidential information like shoved in those pipes. No one like
right.
It just doesn't work.
Well, you couldn't read him anymore because he was wiping with them. So
yeah, exactly.
And Lord knows with what he eats, those wipes are not
no.
Ugh, yikes. $9.99 from Riff. New to this, can your sexuality change with your gender identity as a gender fluid person? To me, it feels like they change together. It feels confusing at times. I'm looking for a close enough label. Well, I think that's a very individualized experience. I think it's hard to say that sexuality does or doesn't change with somebody's gender. I think that is a very individualized experience. And it's interesting because so I'm a bisexual, right? I have had long-term relationships with men and women. I've had flings with people of all genders. And in my experience, I feel like I'll go through a phase where I'm like looking at men more, and then like back to a phase where I'm looking at women more. And like, to me, that doesn't feel like fluid sexuality. It just kind of feels like I am bisexual, and like sometimes I'm like, God, men are so I just don't want to right now. And then and that can like kind of color your experience or whatever. So it's really hard to make like a prescriptive claim. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the label I use is queer. You're queer.
True.
That's it. That's the label. There you go. It encompasses all of it. You're just queer.
And this touches on the conversation we had earlier about don't pressure yourself with feeling like you need to choose labels. But I think queer is such a good catch-all bucket that like if you're feeling like you need a label, but you just really haven't figured out where you sit yet, queer is perfect because all it means is you're not cis or you're not straight. If you're one of those two,
either or,
and you don't know where you land, you're queer. $10
from Mr. Bariquatin, howdy, hashtag Snake Mom, and Josie. I came in at Darkly Yours call. We'll watch back up to then. Hopefully, it was a good roll today. Up to this point, my local races were largely uncontested. It's dumb. Well, Mr. Bariqua, why aren't you running then?
Run for something.
Yeah.
We've got $10 from Stephanie Helms. Excuse me. Sorry, Stephanie. Are the helicopters pissed off about pronouns? Hashtag Team Arden. Oh my god, did they identify as attack? The attack helicopters again. See, listen, this never would have happened if conservatives didn't make that a gender. But conservatives really just wanted that to be a gender, so.
Yep. That's what they wanted. They did this to themselves. $5 Canadian from Grace5769. Hashtag Team Ben. Good. I see what you did there. Even if he's not here, the patriarchy is real. You two are a great duo because Josie is a sweetheart and Arden takes no shit from anyone. Yeah, I see you, Grace, upholding the patriarchy. We know it's real. We don't need evidence.
I appreciate it. I always wonder if it's a problem that this is my brand, that I'm the fire brand. I do want to have productive conversations with people, but I also feel like there's a threshold where once you pass it, the productive conversation has passed, and it's better to be a rhetorical flourish of me not giving you room to breathe. But sometimes that doesn't read well with people.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
It's a weird thing because I personally, I feel like there's almost an obligation of some sort to be like that, and that's why I do it. I don't know. I struggle.
You're channeling a lot of the people's feelings, and you're just want to yell at them. But I like to just keep on giving them the rope, and then all of a sudden they realize that they're tied up in rope, and then they die.
But sometimes I feel like they just keep walking with the rope. You know what I mean? The end of the rope falls out of your hand, and they just keep going. And I'm like, okay, well, what is the point of this? So
you got to be experienced with the rope.
I don't think that's it, because I've had a lot of experience with the rope, and in my personal view, it seems like there comes a certain point where it is better to take a butcher knife and axe off the end of the rope and hold it up to everyone than to I don't know. There is a balance there, and I'm always working on improving it. I do feel like, though, after this election, I feel like I learned so much from that campaign cycle, and I feel like I've been feeling like I'm getting better. My approach is really honing in on what's effective, and I've been feeling really good about it. So,
I think about it when you're watching a movie and one of the characters are just dodging every punch and laughing at them the whole time. It's you can't even hit me. What's wrong with you? You're so weak. And they just get more angry and they start pushing, and you're just and then you just trip them because they're off balance, and you're just look at you. You just fell on your ass and you couldn't even hit a hit. That's kind
airbender
of how
moves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. I always used to think I was an airbender. I shouldn't finish this. No, I'm gonna finish it. I think one of those which Avatar characters are you most like? And my top two were Azula and Iroh. Make it make sense. How am I most like Azula and Iroh at the same time? I don't know.
It's divided by 0. Come on.
Right? It doesn't really make sense. But also, I feel like I'm you're right, though. You're right, though. Somehow. It's funny. $5 from Adam Taylor. The clitoris has about 8,000 nerve endings and still isn't as sensitive as a right-wing man on the internet. That's so good.
It is good.
Hashtag Team Josie. Hashtag Team Gigglefit.
Yeah,
that is really funny.
I'm glad that Gigglefit got a vote there. $5 Canadian from Grace5769. Oh, I see. You got to ballot stuff for this time. I get it. All right. I changed my mind. Hashtag Team Arden. We don't respect drugs in this house, only in my house.
Same. Absolutely same. That's funny. Also, is ballot stuff what we just call winning a free and fair election now? Apparently.
Oh, is that what it is?
$10 from Ayla Ursus, hashtag Team Josie. Look, see, you're getting your votes.
I am.
You're just embarrassed that I just made you look like a fool in the first half of the election.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
5 pounds from Herbie Shine. Thanks for your explanation of the trans black situation and troll. Wasn't something I've heard of before. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking about it. It isn't. We've done a few calls like that before, so I'm sure there's something you can look back on the catalog about that. But yeah, it is. It's a relatively common thing that comes up, but not the most common, I would say. Also, I just got to say, I love Josie. You matched for me, like bullying my friends is like a sign of like love and affection. I even saw a study recently that said that people who pick on their friends are like 300% more loyal and honest with their friends or something like that. That was like one of those pop psychology articles. Like, I don't know how like totally legitimate that is. But I was like, oh, I'm so glad, because that is like my entire love language. All of my friends are people who can match me and like talking mad shit constantly. And I'm like, it's great. You never fail. Yeah. You're always right there.
Absolutely. It's the best part. Of course we're going to throw shade at each other all the time. It's what makes our friendship so great.
$4.99 from JW Edgy. AOC and Sanders is coming to my small red town, kinda. It was going to be in our town, but so many people signed up. I have to travel 40 minutes away now. That's so exciting, though. That is really awesome. Like, I mean, it's frustrating you have to drive, but like the fact that their movement and what they stand for is so big that that's happening is just really bodes well for me. My motivation, you know, my like not being blackpilled on the future, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. I just hope that we can get some real something out of it. I'm just trying to figure it out. It's like, what is it? What's the goal? What is it? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. $5 Canadian from Jessica Gallagher. Whoops, I forgot to add this part. Hashtag Team Arden.
Hello,
Jessica, it's okay
thank
to
you.
That.
You know, on the note of what the goal is, I feel like I know there's some anxiety about the like perpetual campaign cycle thing, but also it feels like right now we're already in that world, and like being in the news as much as possible is advantageous. And it really feels like at the very least they're accomplishing that. Like people are talking about them all the time. I'm not hearing much about Hakeem Jeffries, the useless fucking corporate response generator. But I hear a lot about AOC. And so
yeah,
there is an impact there, I think, you know, to being like just constantly in front of people.
It's like one of those things. It's like, I hope behind closed doors with other politicians, AOC's like saying, hey, why don't we all leave the Democratic Party together and create something new? Like that is the dream scenario, right? And I'll say that. And man, it's a tough thing to say, but it's just like, hey, how about we all just gather up all of the people on the left and then just like do something different that's value driven. But we'll see. I don't know. Bernie was saying that people should leave the Democratic Party, but I was like, but where to though? Like you have to go somewhere.
He did just kind of vaguely like gesture to like being an independent, and like Matt and I have talked about this, about like as independents they could still caucus with the Democrats, like, or you could even like develop like a more like socialist Democrat caucus within the Democratic Party or something. Like, I think that could be useful. But I agree with what you're saying, where it's like they're not really articulating that vision super well. I'm not even sure they totally know the vision. I feel like they're kind of just like trying to be in front of people and get a feel of what they need to do. But I'll tell you what, they're going to be way ahead of every other candidate for the midterm elections because they've been doing this. Like, they got a massive head start. So
yeah, they did. So hopefully it turns into something. $5 from Mark, Mr. KK. 1, how can cisgender men navigate meeting and dating trans women without objectifying, fetishizing? Haven't before, but I'm genuinely curious and open to it. I mean, honestly, like, just treat those trans women as women. But like the thing is like dating apps kind of make it a thing where you can actually like either a filter or like whatever you can do that, because like most trans women are putting their trans women in their profile because men are scary. But in reality it's like as long as you're not starting the date off, hey, I matched with you because you're trans. Like,
Yeah.
don't do that. Like, just be like, just genuinely interested in the other human, and just like don't immediately focus on like what genitals do you have, like, because then you're being weird. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, like trans women want to date cis men, and so just don't be weird about it. Just don't be creepy.
I
Don't
feel like,
take too much interest in things that are weird.
yeah, I feel like the second you start looking for a trans woman, that's a red flag for me. Like, if we happen to meet and you're cool with it, that to me is a green flag. But if you are looking for trans women, to me, that tells me you have some kind of expectation or fantasy about what that means and are like basing your decision on that. And that immediately, to me, I already feel objectified. So
Yeah,
I don't.
it's a weird line to thread, because like again, it's like one of those things where it's like I said at the beginning, it's like you're not saying, "Oh, I matched with you because you're trans," because then it's like super weird. But like, I think at the end of the day, it's like trans women are fucking cool as shit, and I could understand why somebody would want to date a trans woman in a lot of ways. But it is kind of strange, and it's like it's a weird line to kind of like walk, and it sucks because trans women have to deal with this all the time when we're single and dating people.
I will
It's
say,
really hard.
when other queer people do it, I'm less bothered, like, by like looking for a trans person, because that doesn't usually feel like it comes with the same baggage as a straight cis man doing that. But I'm sure there's someone out there who's done it in a way that's not creepy, but I haven't seen it. Anyway,
I've seen it.
I've never seen them looking for trans people specifically and it not be creepy. When they happen to find trans people and it works out, that's great. But the second you're like looking for a trans woman, to me, you're looking for like an idea of what you think being with a trans woman is like, and it's already like problematic. And
yeah,
not everyone feels like I do, by the way. I'm not trying to pretend that my view is like the correct one. I think this is a very objective personal thing, but for me, that's a red flag.
It's interesting because how would you know otherwise? Unless they said it, right? If they said it, then it's weird, right? It's like, oh yeah, I was just going to like trans girl forums and trying to pick them up. And also like if you were to go to like a queer event, right, where you're going to like a potluck for like the local LGBTQ center and you're just trying to vibe with people, I think that's kind of okay too. Wouldn't you think that's okay? Even though you're like there and you're most likely going to meet with somebody that is probably trans and straight.
Yeah, I mean, I there's a difference between like queer events and like you looking for like you only swiping right on trans women on a dating app. That just, I don't know. To me, that just, again, I'm sure there are people who can do that and not be gross about it. But I think the number is so low and I'm not interested in sussing it out that I'm like, sorry, but for me, that is a red flag. You might be fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in discovering that if that is why you found me or why you matched with me. Like that is already a problem for me.
Yeah. I guess the clue for me for Chaser, the clue for Chaser is if they ask you if you've had the surgery or not.
Oh yeah, 100%. As soon as they get there, it's already past the line. But like in my experience, when they're looking for trans women, 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times, that is in the repertoire of conversation. Like I almost never had an experience where that isn't the direction that it went. They'll often try to couch it too between like some sort of hidden statement about like, oh yeah, you know, like I'm just kind of like open to anything. And that's like, you want, never mind. I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but we skipped this super chat.
Yeah, we did. $10 from Uncomfy. Forgot to vote. Silly me. Have some more money. Hashtag Team Josie. By the way, Josie, you have a cool shirt. I know.
Thru. It's so cute.
Yeah.
$5 from A Crenich. Just wanted to help out a little. Good luck on the speech, Arden. Hashtag Team Arden. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm excited. I think I've got a pretty good outline down. I just have to flesh it out and give it some more meat on the bones, you know?
$9.99 from Kara C. I want to learn more about local elections, but I feel like every website is talking in a foreign language. Hashtag any suggestions? Hashtag Team Arden. Sure, I'll give you suggestions for your Team Arden vote. No, I just
Sierra's cool. I met Sierra. She's rad.
All right, Sierra, I'll forgive it this once. So local elections are tough, and sometimes we're trying to figure out like who you support. But honestly, like a lot of local elections, you can find a way. Like a lot of times they're doing meet and greets, they're doing events, they're trying to win community support. Just go and talk to the candidate. Like local elections, that's one of the benefits of local elections is you can actually just like, oh, they have a little mixer at this coffee shop. I'm going to go and I'm going to meet the candidate. Talk to them. Ask them straight up. And ask them what they believe and what their thoughts are and what issues they're trying to focus on. That's probably the best way to do it. And that's why I always tell people to get involved in local elections is because you have the opportunity to actually like meet the politician and they're just not on a screen, the media for you to like observe. And if they're not, if they are a local candidate and you can't meet with them, that's a red flag. Like, why aren't you campaigning? Why are you hiding behind your screen? Like, why aren't you actually going out into the community and meeting people? Like, why aren't you canvassing? Like, those are things that are really real. So find them, talk to them. That's what they're there for. They're campaigning. Get them in the campaign.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. Good luck with keeping your eye out.
Yeah.
I know we're... never mind. $10 from Maud. Last week I realized I wanted to be, quote, one of those trans women who only wears dresses, as my mom puts it. So I'm definitely wearing a dress to our family Easter brunch next Sunday, probably fishnets too. I like how you're like, I'm going to wear like a church dress and fishnets. The dichotomy is amazing. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm like happy for you. I don't personally wear dresses. I'll wear them for like formal events, but honestly, not a lot of dresses. One thing I learned is I used to want to wear like short dresses because I feel like when you're early in your transition, you kind of want to wear the things that you think are hot or sexy or whatever. And I realized like because I'm tall, like actually maxi dresses, like long flowy things are a little bit more flattering on me. And so I've been trying to do that, but never been much of a dress. I like being girly, but I don't like wearing dresses, which is a weird intersection.
Love me a nice A-line dress. I'm very dress heavy, but I also when I don't want to shave my legs or something, that's when you'll catch me wearing pants all the time. It's just I'm not even dealing with it.
Catch me wearing pants in the middle of Texas summer because I'm like I didn't shave above my knees. I'm not putting that shit out there. Listen, I work from home. I'm not shaving my legs all the time. That's crazy.
That's the same thing with me too. I hate it. And then I got an event and I'm like, crap, that's going to be time in the shower I'm going to have to spend now.
Oh, God.
$5 from Stephanie Helms. Josie for president. Hashtag Team Josie. Thank you.
True. I would vote for you, Josie.
Yay.
And then I would mock you mercilessly.
That's what I expect.
That's right. $5 from Melatonin Ally. Hashtag Team Josie. I know I'm canceling my vote, but the numbers, there's too much of a gap. Love you both. Hashtag Blue for the girlies. Blue, right? Blue is so good. So underrated.
£5 from Sean Escherwood. Like Arden said, I'm a detransitioner. I thoroughly support the ability to transition, and my own experience was very positive. It just wasn't for me. Yeah.
Right. I posted this earlier.
You did post.
Do you want to read the next one? Because then
Yeah. $5 from Domestic. Thank you both. Hashtag Team Josie. See? Team Josie shows up. See, they figure out how many votes they need to beat you if they're efficient.
I was betrayed. Melatonin Ally has been on my team all this time, but you know, she got soft on me. Listen,
Hey, it's hard to vote against
Just
the
kidding.
best. All right.
I can't put it all on Melatonale. It's also the rest of you fuckers. You weak.
No, the Team Josie is a strategic group of people, all right? They know exactly how many doors they need to knock and how many votes they need to win the election. They know their win number, okay? Bye.
$5 from Monkey and Typewriter. Arden Hart. Azula in the streets, Iroh in the sheets. Either that or you got some hidden fire or smoke or whatever. Hashtag Team Josie bet me 300 electoral votes.
That sounds like a Team Josie vote.
That is a Team Josie vote.
I will bet you 300 electoral votes. Whatever that means, I will do it.
I think I'd rather be like Iroh in the streets, Azula in the sheets than the other way around. But
I know, because, being Azula in the sheets makes sense, okay?
Yeah, interesting, but I think it is mostly that I have attitude. Word. Me? Attitude? Who is she? Who is she?
I've never seen you give attitude to anybody.
Attitude? Not me. Couldn't be me.
Never would have pinned that on you. $9.99 from Jason. Do you really think of elections do you think if elections had real-time results like super chats right now, outcomes would be better? I mean, I don't know. It's like, that's a really good question. That would be interesting though. Like when we start voting on our phones, because there will be a day that happens in like probably 10, 15 years. But like people are going to be able to see live tallies and be like, go and fucking vote. Go on your phone and fucking vote. Do you see how close we are? Like, but it also could have a knock-on effect too, where somebody's winning so much at the beginning that people won't vote because they don't think they can win. It's a really interesting thought.
Yeah, I mean, we already kind of have close to real time. I mean, not quite real time, but like it's close enough that like most elections are decided, in those first like 24 hours. And we get that effect where there is that mirage, right? Where whoever seems to be winning early on, outside of the states where it's like a straight shot, like obviously blue's going to win, obviously red's going to win in that state. There's often that like sort of blue mirage, red mirage where it looks like it's starting to go one way and then the rest of the ballots come in and it swaps again. I think we already kind of do close.
Team Josie.
Yeah, you accuse me of ballot stuffing, but
always get your hopes up just so they could be dashed. It's the best thing. $20 for Mr. Bariqua 10. Hashtag Josie. I'm too afraid of public speaking and the fucking up my principles while representing constituents, not for the lack of trying, mind you. As for Arden, Azula for your firebrand side, and Iroh for your wisdom and patience.
If you keep looking for the dark, it's all you ever see. I'm Iroh. Thanks everybody for coming to my TED Talk. $4.99 from Jason. Forgot to vote. Hashtag Team Josie. Team Arden.
Jason.
Come through. What is this shit? What is this shit?
Dash those hopes. Oh, of course, Ben gets in here with $9.99 from JW Edgy. I don't support ballot stuffing. Hashtag Team Ben 11. Oh my gosh. I see what's going on.
$10 from Brent J. Hashtag Team Josie. Please support your local giggle factory. Hashtag ballot integrity. But then
it's close.
Ooh. But then we also have another one from Quantos Nachos. Arden, will your speech be streamed or posted online anywhere? Also, hashtag Team Arden, hashtag Matt paid me to ballot stuff. What?
Ooh.
Why is he doing that? We're
is it a tie?
Cohabitating couple. We can't. Yeah, we can like our money goes to the same place. Why would you do that?
Josie wave.
The speech will be recorded by the event people, and I know I get a copy of that, so I will post it somewhere, or at least clips of it somewhere, probably on my personal channel. Felicia, if you can, I don't know if the link is actually in the description. There's like 2 things on there, and they're clips from TACIS from like a month or more ago, so there's not a lot there, but that is me. Yeah, I'll probably post from there. I do want to start posting there more, but we'll when I actually get around to doing it is another question entirely. I don't know if you guys know, but I work here full time and I run a business on the side. And so my time is like very tiny, very, very small.
Oh, wow. Look, it's still a tie.
Wow.
It's still a tie. It's back to back.
We got from A. Greenwich, $5, hashtag Team Arden. From Ayla Ursus, $10, hashtag Team Josie.
Oh,
So
the
it brings us to
$10.
15-15.
15-15. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do?
Ayla could have won it for you if they had sent $5. Boom.
I know.
Right? Clean right there, cinched it for you. But instead,
it's okay.
We're gonna have to find a way to vamp.
Team Josie actually makes their votes a little bit heavier. You know, heavy-handed vote. I love it. It works.
Awesome. Yeah.
So what do we do?
We did just get my channel in the chat, so yeah, I'll post it there probably. We'll see.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, I guess this happened with Lux and I last week. We just vamped for a while. We ended up getting because we had is it David Haxer who will send like 10 super chats individually. We had a dueling Arden Lux, Arden Lux, two people sending back and forth, and we got like so many votes in because of that.
Where does I guess go.
We'll give it till
if they keep stalling and nobody says anything.
I have a plan. If by 5:40 we are still at a tie, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do a 2 minutes on the thing, and then Josie will do 2 minutes on a team, and then we'll put a poll in chat, and whoever wins that poll at the end of 2 minutes, that will be crowned the winner. So that'll be like our tiebreaker. Okay,
I like it.
So
I like it.
Arden needs to post more content. Tell me about it, girlfriend. Oh my god. I was thinking about actually doing live streams because I think it'll be easier for me to clip that up if I just like do like a solo live stream or something and then like cut that up. Oh shit, we got shit coming through.
Oh my gosh, what the hell, Team Arden? What the hell? Come on, Team Josie. We need more.
Hold on. Let me get these in the queue.
Come on, Team Josie.
Okay.
Don't let us down.
So we've got $5 from the Fuzzy Logic. Someone should start the fully automated luxury gay space communist party. They would have me vote hashtag Team Arden. That is the phrasing that I was looking for earlier when I was like, gay communism. No, it's fully automated luxury gay space communism. Yeah, that is so funny. I love that line.
There you go.
And then that one.
Team
Yeah.
Not gonna vote this show is a roll suck.
Wait. This is how I troll sucka is what that is a little hard to read. Some capitalization, some camel case might have made that easier, but got it. Nice one. That's actually pretty funny. Thank you, Monkey, a typewriter. I'll take your money, even if you are a filthy fence sitter. And then another Team Arden from A. Greenwich. Thank you so much. And then Ayla came in with a Team Josie.
Oh, and another Team Josie just came in from Uncomfy.
Oh my god.
Vote more than once. Hashtag Team Josie.
So
yes, you can always vote more than once.
There we go.
It's gonna be a tie again. Did we say 6:36 is when we were doing it?
I said 5:40 is when I would do a team breaker if we got there. Like giving them a few minutes. Listen, you might need to call your bank and tell them, hey, listen, I'm giving all of my money, every penny, to these two beautiful women on this internet show. I need you to let it go through. And I want you to have time to do that, you know, just fair.
They just want to see us do the argument twice. Oh,
that is probably it.
Mr. Barikwa breaking the tie. Always can count on Mr. Barikwa for a clinching Team Josie
and another Team Josie. Uh-oh.
Team Josie always comes through.
There's 18 with Mr. Boricua, and then 19 from Ayla. And then Monkey sent a Team Lux. It's not loading in my thing yet, but it's there. There you go.
It's there.
Thanks, Monkey, a typewriter. Alrighty. Well, if we're already past the threshold, now I'm 2 behind. I'll give you guys till 38.
Ooh.
Oh, and we crossed the line. I'm sorry to say it. Hold the votes. Thank you, A. Greenwich. I see. Tasha Team Arden, how many times must I do this? but it is still not enough. I appreciate your support.
Oh my god, it is an actual tie. Mr. Pariqua, what are you doing? I think they want us both to do... I think that's a sign. We're both going to have to do the argument.
We'll do it. We'll do it. We can do
We'll
it.
do
I mean...
We'll do it. We'll do it.
I'm going to win.
Give the people what they want.
So, that was 2 votes for me. That brings me up to 19.
It is the final countdown.
All right. Do we... Wait, here. I have an idea for how we decide who goes first. Let's see if I could bring up like a coin toss thing on my phone and show it to you guys. Okay. Josie, heads or tails? Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. Heads or tails?
You want me to say it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, tails.
Tails.
Yes.
So you go first.
And what am I defending?
It looks like, let's see what won. It disappeared from my feed over there. Drag Queen Monarchy is the official winner by quite a lot this time. They've been pretty close lately, but this one pretty much swamped. So we are calling it there. We have to do a tie break scenario. This is never before seen on this show. We've never had.
So are you going to put the vote up first before I start?
Yeah, my thing is, it has to say winner or loser. So, okay, here, I have an idea. How to make this work. Is undecided. Establish a drag queen monarchy. All right. Are you ready to go first?
Are you going to set up the vote first in the poll? You're going to set up the poll first?
Well, I can't do that until we both go, because people haven't seen mine. They couldn't vote for mine. Let me... This is being... hold on. YouTube is doing the thing where they want me to fucking log in the middle of a live stream.
Wow.
So annoying. I'm like, I've already logged in. I started the stream. Why would this be a necessity? Okay. Are you ready to defend your position, Josie?
I am.
All right, here we go. Charging up the clock in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we obviously need to establish a drag queen monarchy because the queens already have it in their name. They already understand what a monarchy is. You have the imperial court, which is a thing that actually already exists. International Drag Queen Imperial Court. Have you heard of it? They already know how to do this on a global scale. So using it for the world, it would just be a simple little thing. Drag queens know how to show up and serve up, okay? That is what their whole thing is about. And honestly, a drag queen monarchy will make sure that people have the freedom to express their true self. So everybody has the ability to serve up whatever they need for the equality of the entirety of the world. They stand up when necessary. They are always bold, always ready. They have ballroom. They have families. They never leave a person on the streets because they want to bring them into the house to make sure that they're ready to serve up whatever they need to do for the world. And think about it. A drag queen's going to make sure that you have your health care. A drag queen's going to make sure that you have the ability to get educated. And a drag queen is always going to make sure that every civil right is 100% ready and protected. Because that's what it's all about. Freedom. It's true, utter freedom. Because with the drag queen monarchy, you also have the fact that you vote people in and out. So it's even got a little taste of democracy. You pick who is the queen, and then that is how we can actually model our entire globe based on their queenness. There you go.
Okay, I couldn't watch because I realized I didn't want to be influenced by your argument. I pulled out my headphones and I was like,
wow.
And then you got animated and I could hear a little bit of it and I was like, no, get these out of my ears. I don't want to. This needs to be fair. Okay. Are you ready, chat? Here we go. Take 2. and go. Okay, so let's face it. We just had an election. It did not go well. Like, democracy has proven itself. It cannot work. The people are too stupid. They're too subject to the whims of some ugly, idiotic old man that they just can't handle how to conduct themselves. So we need to bring back rule and order. And how are we going to do that? The drag queen monarchy. Okay, we are sick of having these silly rules where people are like, oh, you have to put this on this form and this on this form. No more. How are we going to solve debates? How are we going to solve lawsuits? Fucking lip sync battles, all right? People are going to be death dropping and they're going to be like, she's guilty as hell, but that was too thick a move. I have to vote her. She's innocent. And honestly, isn't that like the true meritocracy, where the people who can like stunt the best on their competitors are the ones who win? And honestly, like, if we look at the fashion of the people in charge, they are like, it's bad, right? It's ugly. It's uncomfortable. Nobody looks like they're having any fun. But when we watch drag queens, everybody is having fun. Do you not agree that you need to have more fun? I'm tired of not having fun. I would love looking at politics to feel like an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. Probably without RuPaul wouldn't be the worst thing. I'm ready for the monarchy to come back, but it can't be like it used to be. There's no more there's no more forced like Catholicism or any of that crazy shit or whatever the Church of England was. It's time to be ready to bring back the true power and reverse those power structures. Bring the power back to the gays. The gays are going to love you and coddle you way better than these awful straight men ever will. So my pitch is straight men bad, gay people good, and let them rule us and do whatever they want and dance and stuff. Okay.
All right.
Poll is going live in chat right now. It is currently 5:45. So at 5:48, because I think the minute's going to be turning here in a second, we will call it there, and whoever has the most votes, no matter how slim, is going to be the winner.
No matter how slim.
Get those votes in, hit that button, tell us who you think won this battle to defend the drag queen monarchy. Who do you think is the best advocate for the drag queen monarchy? I'm sad I couldn't listen to yours because I'm sure it was great, but I was like, it's a mistake. If I listen, I'm going to like take things or I'm going to comment on it. And I want this to be a fair representation.
You missed the slogan. It's like, they know how to serve up. Like, they know, they do. So why would we not? They have the
serving's good.
The Imperial Court.
This is why it's so close. If we were working together, they would be serving up and they'd be serving justice. I miss serving justice with my point.
Showing up.
That would have been a good.
And showing up is what I said. And they already have the International Court, right? And so this is a global scale. See, this is what we're talking about. They're already ready. They already have international boundaries.
See, we're defeating the divisions in society already by just working together to make drag queens rule everybody. For sure. Matt says, I'm the best advocate for the drag queen monarchy, but they definitely don't want to challenge me. Really? Well, that's pretty. You're pretty full of yourself. You really think you're the hot shit there, huh? You think you could beat us? Sorry, but you aren't even transgender.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we are at 5:47. We're getting close here. Although Josie does have a lead on me right now, but it could just be the Josie Mirage. Team Arden come through.
I don't know. It's on my side. It's looking like you're ahead. What's going on here?
Oh no, I do have a slight win. For some reason I thought you were the one with the win. Team Arden. Oh my God, you guys, you really love me. This is true love.
This is so close to a tie. It's so close to a tie. Come on, friends.
Also, in my drag queen world, you guys all get poppers for free. So
wow, now you're bribing people.
So
wow.
Listen, there's no federal elections commission in the drag queen monarchy. We just do what we want. Okay.
It's a tie. It's a tie.
Oh my God. No fucking you guys. As soon as the percent changes to have either one, vote. Click the button in chat. Okay.
Oh God. No! No! No!
Okay, I hit end because mine was 50. Yes. Yes.
No!
Yes. I win.
Wow.
I win. I win. I win. I win. I win. Thank you guys.
Vote. You see how important elections are by one vote. That's it. That's all it takes.
Dark Lior said, which poppers do you mean? Not jalapeno poppers. Oh, some people don't know what poppers are. Aw.
Too close to call. Too
You
close
guys.
To call.
Oh, no, it was called. I won. See those numbers? I had 50. Josie had 49. It's called. I won. Thank you, everybody. This was a really fun episode, and it was a really funny bit to do the tiebreaker, honestly. We'll bring that back.
We are.
Thank you guys so much. I forget who's on next week. Let me look, actually, at the schedule real quick before I ship you guys all off. I just finished making the schedule. Next week, it's going to be Lux and Ben. So tune back in if you want to talk to either of those two about anything and everything else trans. But until then, Ben, Arden, Josie on Transatlantic. Thank you guys, and we'll see you all next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
You gotta be a patron though. Like if you want to see more great content like that, like the tiebreakers, join the Patreon and subscribe and like. And yeah, this was a long show, Arden.
It was, but it was a fun one.
It was
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you, and we'll see you all next time.